Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could take sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Okay, again, this is for second podcast in a row we're on time. So guys, we're even 1 minute. Rob, 1 minute. Do you see this? Like how on time we are today.
We're doing it.
You guys are welcome for us being on time, by the way. We love you. We appreciate your patience. Let's get right into it. Episode 464. We have your favorite person in the house, the person you guys never talk shit about. Like no comments, no negativity. Chris Cuomo's in the house today. Chris, it's great to have you. Probably the most loved guy on the podcast. I just want you to know. Yeah, I mean, these guys are just... You know, the comments are so good that I wouldn't even read the comments. You just have to assume they love it, right? It's like Adam and, you know...
Just know that I love when you're here. Just know that. On a literal level and on an esoteric level.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Love you guys out there.
But let me tell you,
effect.
Chris did something last week. This was the first time where I saw, like, folks on the right and the center, they're like, holy moly. Everybody was sharing this clip of him calling out the establishment. Chris Cuomo calling out. How dare Chris Cuomo call out the establishment? We'll talk about that. And we got a bunch of other stories to get into here as well. One story, BBC. As a guy who lived in Iran, here's a stat that some of you guys have to know about. I think it's important for us to discuss. Iran hanged 834 people in 2023. A rights group report. This is from Iran International and BBC. 834 people were hung last year in Iran. We'll show those stats to you. This is coming from a guy that used to live there, and I left there when I was almost 11 years old. That's 10 years and 9 months old when I left. And I remember memories since I was 5, 6 years old. Iran, 834 last year, okay? Another video came out, Wall Street Journal. I think it's a must-watch. Everybody has to watch it. Read the article, watch the video. It's incredible. It's why so many young men are leaving Democrats for Republicans. And the number is not small. It's staggering. We'll cover that today as well. Kamala Harris to give first interview as presidential candidate Thursday, but it'll be a joint appearance with the arm-pulling Mr. Waltz. He'll be there as well. He's got a pretty solid yank he's got there. Trump says he reached an agreement on the ABC debate with Kamala. Google to relaunch a tool for creating AI-generated images. We're going to show you a video that's AI. That's scary to think how much advancement they're making and how very soon these deep fakes, say on a day like November 4th, can fool everybody. And then on November 6th, they can say, psych, it was a deep fake. And millions could fall for it. We'll talk about that. This is an interesting story. Michigan denies RFK Jr.'s request to be removed from the ballot. Why would they do that? Is it because they want to give certain people some options? I don't know. Megyn Kelly, in the most sweet and loving way, I mean, it was so smooth and gentle. She gave feedback to Kaitlan Collins. Obviously, hardcore sarcasm here. When you hear how she did it, it's great for TV. And hopefully she'll receive the comments that Megyn gave, but we'll see what's going to happen there. Maybe somebody like Chris is going to have feedback from Megyn. I don't know. Maybe he's going to say she's right, she's not, but we'll react to it together. Cuomo and Harris economic plan, we'll talk about that as well. Cuomo wants his brother to give up politics. You know, Chris Cuomo wants Andrew Cuomo to give up politics. This is New York Daily News. Maybe it's not a real story. Maybe it is. Who knows? We'll see what he's got to say about it. New poll shows Trump and Harris tied in Miami-Dade County. Don Lemon marvels at black voters, telling him they're backing Trump. Think he is on black people's side, right? And this video is very entertaining. Former colleague of yours. Love to get some thoughts on that. The New York Times turns on Kamala Harris and slams her as a phony. Okay? Why would they do that? Shouldn't the New York Times be for her? And you got the Harris campaign advisor claims only press and insiders care about vice president not doing an interview. Nobody else cares about it, meaning you don't care about seeing interviews of her. You already trust that she's going to be a great president. Telegram founder Pavel charged over alleged criminal activity on the app. Telegram founder Pavel transferred from police custody to court. We'll talk about that. Fury after student was banned from flying American flag on his truck. Why would he, get in trouble for flying an American flag? That's kind of weird, right? Parents are getting into deeper credit card debt to cover back-to-school expenses. Next story. More Americans are thinking about postponing retirement. And then Chris Cuomo rips corporate influence at conventions. How dare he rip corporate influence? How could you say such a thing, Mr. Chris Cuomo? We're going to hear from him today as well. Bill O'Reilly goes off on Chris Cuomo, according to Mediaite. He just loved the titles that they create. And then she'll be seen as a bitch. I don't know what that story is. But Chris Cuomo warns Kamala Harris not to be mean if she wants to beat Trump. And then maybe a little bit of an accounting error, folks, that's important to follow here. U.S. State Department accidentally gave $239 million to Taliban since disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. And but most importantly that we have here, what is this? What is this thing, Rob? You're texting me. Is it true, or did that just happen?
It looks like it's true.
There's no way that's true what they're talking about. So apparently a new, did you see this, Tom, this morning? New candidates, outsiders are wanting to, can you come in this late? 2 candidates are running for office this late? I don't know if that's even Rob, this is what story is talking about this? What channel is this?
Let me pull it up. Hang on one second.
Why would New York Post and New York Times talk about these 2 candidates can you pull up the campaign on what their slogan is? Pull up their campaign on what their slogan is. Here we go. The latest campaign. Zoom in, Rob. Zoom in. Ellsworth Sosnick 2024. Shut up, you little. It's their slogan.
Well played, guys. Well played.
Rob, can you do me a favor and play the clip for people to know where this is coming from? By the way, can you have ever seen this?
Joke.
If that shirt exists and I don't get one in an extra medium before I leave, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Guys, that shirt is here.
I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it. You give it to me. I'm wearing it right now.
You got to be kidding.
This guy's getting naked on camera right here. What is happening right now? Ladies, don't look. Look away. You're not going to...
Rob, go to my Twitter account. It should be on there right there if you just go on my Twitter.
This is good.
This, finally, something I can get behind.
That's a shoot.
You got to turn a little bit.
Ellsworth Sosnick.
Shut up, you little bitch.
This
just what my mother used to tell me.
Have you seen this clip on what happened or no? On the podcast? Is this it, Rob?
We're doing this now?
Oh, my God. We have to show. So on the podcast, this is a couple weeks ago. Adam and Tom are going at it. And next thing you know, okay, Tom, Rob, it's right there. If you just go on my account, you should be able to see it. I retweeted it.
Oh, okay.
I'm texting it to you as well. It's not hard to find. I think it's 6 down. If you keep going, 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 you keep going. It's about to come up. Go one more right there. Okay. This is why the campaign started, folks. And you guys go ahead and play this clip. This is just a very special moment between the 2 candidates, the president and the VP. Go ahead.
More balanced. Oh, I read.
Tom, what's your point, dude?
I went into the, you're trying so hard, you little bitch. It's like, it's like, what's going on? What you have, Tom,
you're the smartest guy in the room. You're rambling on and on and on.
Almost killed Vinny. Almost killed Vinny.
That's why he's not here today. Tom, no shit. Give us what's your point?
Textbooks, baby. So
you can pause it right there. So for those of you that support the Ellsworth and the Sosnick ticket, and you like their slogan, this will be limited merch. We will never sell this again, guys. I'm telling you right now. If you want to go get that gear, 2024, that's the merch right there. It'll sell out. We don't have a big amount of shirts. This is less than 500 shirts that you can go order. So once you order, it's out. It'll be limited edition. People won't see it. But we also have this one, which I freaking love. You'll see me sporting this one here. It's the Future Looks Bright 2024 campaign shirt and the red one. Pick and choose either one of those. You can go on vtmerch.com to place the order, but this is a special one. right, sounds good. Okay, let's get right into it. Rob, can you pull up the clip? Of Chris Cuomo at the DNC. I want to first play it for the audience.
Is it okay if I wear it during the podcast?
I think it's fantastic. I think you're going to confuse the hell out of everybody saying, is this a new ticket?
I knew he was a partisan.
So this is Chris at the DNC. Now, Chris, when you're doing this and you're saying this, did somebody piss you off? Did something happen? Did somebody do something that you got upset about? Or was it just purely organic? You knew you were going to say this.
So here's what happened. Obviously, I didn't just discover this. Everybody understands the role of money in these things. But sometimes it's about degree. So I'm walking around to get to News Nation's setup up where the suites are. They had a setup. Now, I was never there, maybe for a moment. I really believed you need to be on the floor. I did not know they wouldn't let me sit down. And my ankles looked like my grandmother's. I had to stand 6 hours every night. And people are like, so what? Well, I'm 54 years old. It's hard. So you stand all night. It's exhausting.
Cankles. I believe.
Yeah, I had a real set of Irish Marys. So I'm walking around where the setup is. And I see the suites. I know the suites are there. And they all have drapes. And some people stop me. They want to take a picture. I take a picture. The same people walk in to one of the suites, and I'm kind of like walking around. I look into the suite, and the people who are in there running the suite see me and walk over and close the drape. And, it wasn't insulting or anything, but it was just one of those things where I was like...
Did you have a camera crew with her, or is it just you?
No, I was just walking around. And I said, there's just such an obvious bullshit aspect. And it's always been like this at every convention I've been to. I've been to many RNCs, many DNCs. You have to make the money to play the game. And I then was like looking at, hey, I wonder what they're costing this year. And they don't hide it. It's right there. There's a menu. And the RNC had a menu. There's no shame in the game because it's all legal. You pay $5 million, you get a meeting with the elected leadership. Sure. And then they offset it by saying, but we have small dollar donations. Now, this is an obvious fake, right? Why? Well, who matters more to you? 100 people who give you $1 or one guy who gives you $100? So I say to my producer, do me a favor, walk around with the camera and just POV it, like as if you were a person in these different things. And I start looking at the numbers, and the numbers are staggering. 2000, they spent over $200 million in the presidential election. It's a lot. This year, the estimate is $10 billion.
Wow.
How can you believe that anybody's going to do anything to those people? And I just believe that it was important just to remind. I don't think people are stupid. I don't think they don't think there's money in politics. I don't think they don't think that bigger money means more. And I've been spending time with a guy named John Morgan. If you watch TV, you've seen commercials for Morgan & Morgan.
Oh, Morgan & Morgan.
They're the largest plaintiffs firm in the country, right?
Of course. They're everywhere.
He is a big bundler, mostly Democrats, but he's worked. This guy is the most honest, candid talker of the money in the game I've ever met. I say to him, what happened with Biden? He goes, I'll tell you what happened with Biden. This is the freedom that money gives you in politics, because he doesn't give up what anybody says to him because they need his money. He's like, it wasn't Obama. No. This was Nancy Pelosi. She did some lion shit. She got blood all in her mouth and in her teeth biting on Biden's neck because he was hurting them down ballot. And that's why Nancy Pelosi is the best. And I said, so you like Nancy Pelosi? He goes, oh, yeah. She took my kids to meet the Dalai Lama in Tibet. I'll give her whatever she wants. Complete, transparent.
Yes. Like, she's saying this on the camera? On the interview?
Yeah, it's on my podcast.
Camera.
On my podcast. Wow. And he has, on my TV show, he said it. He said it. And then I had him. And he's not lying. This is the reality. You hook people up who hook you up.
Holy shit.
And I just wanted people to know that the idea, corporate gouging, is something that can happen. It is not happening with groceries. The business has some of the smallest margins. Mm-hmm. The idea that that's what's going on, it's not what's going on. Eggs are higher because you got avian flu all over the world that's making a difference. People are trying to catch up from the pandemic. There are different reasons, economic and environmental, why it's happening. But the idea that you're going to stop it, that you're going to make them pay their fair share, you're full of shit. Because they are going to pay their way right out of it.
Rob, do me a favor. Play the clip. I have a follow-up question on this because I think the audience needs to see your energy while you're in the middle of it. So this is when it happens.
And I'm getting a lot of hate during this.
Well, that was my question.
A lot of hate, a lot of stink eyes.
I understand that.
From where? I'm from around you, right?
Afterwards, when it
during,
went. Okay, play the clip,
after.
Rob. Play the clip.
DNC, but on
X, you were getting cheerleaders.
Play the clip.
The theme here at the DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging. And they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the two sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers. These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of sweets, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? Mm-hmm. You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid $500, $700, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true with the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics. And I had my producer walk around and show you those suites. Now, they're not all the same. They're not all the same. But the reality is, in 2000, they spent $300 million on presidential campaigns. 24 years later, you know what they're expected to spend? $10 billion. Do you know how much money Harris has raised in the last couple of weeks? Hundreds of millions. And that's success.
You can pause.
A lot of it's small.
So let me ask you this question. You're walking around there. A lot of these guys are former colleagues. CNN is there. MSNBC is there. Everybody is there. How are they reacting when they're seeing you? What's the reaction? Is there tension? Because listen, in the insurance space, when I was a guy that was going up against certain guys that were my enemies, and this is insurance. It's not like public, but when we were in the same room, everybody would say, holy shit, they're in the same room. And everyone's watching us, right? Because there's tension that's high. Is that how it is when they see you or not necessarily?
So it may be a similar vibe, but for very different reasons. And, you and I are close, so you know where this is coming from. You are a function of jealousy in the context that you're talking about. That's not what it is with me. My exit from CNN and what people were told about it hurt me and made people think that I was doing shady shit to help my brother and that I was somehow using my show to do that. People at CNN were warned that they couldn't talk to me. So this was the first time I've been anywhere with those people. And again, anybody who knows me knows I don't blow smoke.
Wait a minute. This is the first time since leaving CNN that you're around those people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying when I saw that, I'm like, something happened.
So look, again, most of the people watching don't really know me. It's like, I'm not exactly the guy you're going to come up to and talk shit to in the first place, right? But it hurt because I care about these people. I had real relationships there, you know, and people think I don't go after CNN because of litigation. I don't go after CNN because I really respected and appreciated my position there, and I believe in the place. I'm upset with the people who fired me, but I'm not going to blame the whole place. So a lot of the crew guys are coming up with saying hello, we're hugging. I miss them, man. You know, I was all over the world. You live shit together when you're in that business, bad shit. And so that's awkward and that's hurtful. And most of the talent will ignore me unless we're in the same space with somebody that they want to say hello to at the same time. I got a very good reception at the convention. And people were very nice. And when other media was around when that was happening, they would want to come up and say hello. But I'm not that guy. I don't try to come from a place, you know, I'm trying to get rid of the negativity as much as I can. But I'm not going to fake anything with anybody.
Did anyone talk shit? Did anyone come and make a
No, because you know how it is,
comment?
Pat. You know how it is. I mean, somebody's going to talk about you. They're not going to talk like that.
To your face.
Yeah. You know? So, I mean, you would. I would. But, I mean, it's a different thing.
But did you tell them anything? Like, did you see anybody and they're like, hey, man, good, I miss you. And you're like, no, you don't.
No, you know what started happening?
Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I had that with a couple of people. Yeah. And I had something that bothered me. Adam would come up and say, Patrick wants to talk to you. No. No. You know my number. You know where I am. We're adults, okay? You want to talk to me, you talk to me. And so I wasn't playing that game. But I'll tell you what happened that was interesting. And it kind of goes to the problem. So they all get pissed off at me at the DNC for saying what I said about the DNC. And all the righties love it. Yep. Until I start to cement the point and say nobody has high ground on this. Even, you know, Trump, one of the compelling components of Trump's early ascendance was, well, he doesn't need the money. You know, this guy's self-made. Yeah. But the reality is he's taking the money as much as anybody else because you have to. You cannot compete otherwise. So that starts to sink in. Now the righties are mad at me. And it was such an interesting dynamic of this duopoly. These two parties are literally wringing the life out of our democracy. You cannot be about anything more than the money and the positioning of power. You will lose. And they justify it on both sides the same way. Yes. We should change it. This is wrong, Patrick. I'm sorry I got to squeeze you for this much. But I can't do it now. I have to win. And then we'll figure it out. That's why every election is the most important election in our lifetime.
But you didn't talk like this. You didn't talk like this 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Let me kind of preface this. You know, we have our conversations and I would always say establishment. And you would say, come on, man, what establishment? Establishment, you know, and we would go back on that specific topic, anti-establishment, establishment. You just took a shot at establishment, period, left, right, center. That's what that message was. That is not a message of, I couldn't have seen you give that message 4 years ago because you were establishment. Now you're starting to see what the hell is going on the back end with the establishment on all sides. And you sit there and say, you know what? That's exactly what's going on. Because the audience watches that and saying, that's honest journalism that you're talking shit about what all these guys are doing and they're using their money to control policies, right? So do you feel now, Pat, you have no clue what you're talking about. That's not true. Do you feel now you're seeing the difference?
You absolutely have a clue. Listen, you know I love you. Don't let these people think that I don't love you.
Oh, no. That's not what I'm saying. The point I'm saying to you is, are you seeing now that you're out of it, that there is such a thing as
Here's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, people don't have to accept it, but I would ask you to consider, why would he lie? Okay? I'm never going to work at a big platform again. They don't have a job that I want. I have a stained reputation from them. And the combination of those two things mean I don't have to be nice to anybody. It's not going to get me anywhere. But you feel how you want to feel. Here's what I think the change is. I have changed what I believe matters, okay? When Trump was first on the ascendant, to everybody else, because I had known him my whole life, I believed, and I still do, that there was a need for a muscular response to what he was saying that wasn't happening in the media because he was too intimidating. And they were not used to fighting with somebody who would actively fight with them as a person. Journalists aren't used to that. It's one thing that's not fair, that's not true. Some say allegedly, but it's another thing when it's, Patrick, you're a bad guy. That's a bad question.
Yeah.
You're an idiot. Journalists aren't used to that. We want the shine, but we don't want the smoke. So I was very muscular in my response to him and taking him on because I believe it mattered, okay? I now believe that I could win 10 out of 10 debates with you and I would not move the needle. What we need is different. We need conversation. We need to move focus off of, yes, I understand why I'm worse than Tom. I get it. I get it. I've heard it 100 times. Why will Tom make it better? Let's just focus on that. I get it. I get it. I'm worse than Tom. I get it. What is he doing that will make it better? So I've changed my focus. It's not that I didn't know there was money in politics. I grew up in politics. You know, my brother was saddled with a burden that nobody's ever given him credit for. My father, may rest in peace, on one level was a bad politician. That cat would not make a deal. And he would not talk to donors. The worst thing you could do was give Mario money because he would never want to see you again. He was a rare breed of idealist, okay? And I'm not lionizing my pop. Anybody can do their research, they'll see. Andrew had to do that. Andrew built the organization. Andrew made the sausage. And that was a tremendous burden to put on anyone, let alone your son, let alone at age 18. Andrew beat one of the most famous people in political history named David Garth, running the Ed Koch campaign. Koch, who was a national celebrity. 1982, Andrew beat them, put my father in office. That's the truth. Mario, my father, was an amazing figure, amazing orator. You don't get there on that. So Andrew has this built-in reputation with politicos in the media as the hatchet, as the hammer, and the money, and bringing in the money, and creating the organization. That's how it gets done. So the idea that this is new to me is an impossibility. But what is needed right now is if you want things to change, you know the expression that we all read in self-help,
yes.
Nothing changes if nothing changes,
yes.
Right? Patrick's life is a beautiful testament to that. The guy is always thinking about how to get better and what move I got to make. We all have to do that in every way. We don't do it in our politics. We pick sides of teams that are playing a shit game that is taking us nowhere good. So I've just changed my focus. It's not like I don't know what the establishment is. It's not like I'm trying to rebrand myself. I just think the need is different. Could I have said what I said there 4 years ago or where?
No way,
CNN?
bro.
Yeah.
Listen, I could have. Well, then why didn't I? That's not where I was. Where I was in my head was, is anything true anymore? You know, are you allowed to have to say, no, Tom, it's not 6, it's 7. The answer is 7, and the difference matters. That's where I was there. So it's not that I don't get it. I don't see myself as some disruptor. And everybody thinks I'm an independent journalist now. I work at one of the largest companies in media. Nexstar owns more TV stations than any company. But they do something I've never seen before. Honest to God. And you don't have to believe me. You can look it up yourself. Just watch News Nation. The guy who runs it, Perry Sook, beautiful American success story, okay? His guy is this guy, Sean Compton, okay, who does it. I'm telling you, these guys have a business plan of being nonpartisan and catering to critical thought and independence. And they literally police it. Like they'll literally be like, hey, man, you got to let people speak. You know, you got to have on someone from Harris's side about this. You know, we got to hear from them. I don't want to hear about why it's wrong. And I've never had a boss do that before, where they're like, don't forget the brand. Don't forget the brand. And I think that is admirable. Admirable. News Nation's only a few years old, but they made it as a statement of rejection to what they didn't like in the rest of the media. The guy doesn't need the business. He has the most TV stations in the country. So this is why they're doing it. So for me, it was just one of those moments. It was like when we met. It was just one of those moments where, hey, this works. Patrick's coming from a different place on a lot of policies and philosophical things, because what I love about you is that you're a philosopher on these things. But I just connect with who you are as a person and why you believe what you believe. When I see your father in your house, I always hug him first. I just love what you're about. I don't care if our solutions are different. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to move the needle to that. I had to say that, not because I want to bash the Democrats. The parties suck. I want everyone to leave the parties and just be independent, critical thinkers, and then make your choices. Trump is best for me. Okay. Do I like Trump as a choice? No. Okay, Harris is better for me. I believe in these things. Do I like Harris as a choice? No. Is it as bad as Biden and Trump? No. I believe that's the lowest level of American greatness I've ever seen represented in an election. And I would love to see Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. I would love to see Dan Crenshaw. I wish Ben Sass was back in politics instead of at a university. I wish the guy who was Speaker of the House,
Paul Ryan.
I really believed that these guys, agree, disagree, integrity of purpose, about something bigger than themselves. We don't have
rhinos, though. A lot of people would call them rhinos. So,
but that's the game.
But I totally get that. So let me just ask one question before you come to you. So your brother, you said this a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes.
You said Chris Cuomo wants his brother Andrew to give up politics. This is exactly 7 days ago, August 22nd, New York Daily News, right? And I'll just read the quote and then you can respond to it. I wish he would want to remove himself from that process because of how ugly it is and how reductive it is. This is you talking about your brother. Why do you want him to give that up?
Okay. We all have family, right? Okay. Not like mine. My brother raised me. My father was so committed to public service in a beautiful way. First generation, English wasn't even his first language. And he saw the ability to serve as giving back to something that had given our family everything. So my brother, like I said, was saddled with a tremendous burden. And part of it was raising me. I lived with my brother in the same room. Imagine doing this. He was in his 20s. We're 13 years apart. I know I look much younger and I'm much more handsome and stronger than he is, but we're 13 years apart. He lived.
Throw that right in there, Chris. Good for you.
We lived in the same room when he was in his 20s.
What?
And we're not just brothers, okay? We're very, very tight. The idea that I wouldn't help him in any situation ever is an impossibility to believe for anyone who knows us. What I've seen him go through and how he has handled it, okay? It doesn't matter if you believe the allegations against my brother or you don't. That's not my point. My point is, whether they're true or not, he endured things that a lot of people would never be the same after. And I believe, look at me. I mean, we have pictures of Andrew looking just like Andrew, and I am, like Brooklyn. And then I come up, and then eventually I'm bigger than he is. So, I feel like, why would I want someone I love to be exposed to something so ugly that is designed to destroy him? He says 3 things. 1, you're soft. 2, I believe in service. It is all that matters to me. People throw opportunities at Andrew to make money. Guys like you will be like, I got to have this guy on my team. I want to walk into a room with this guy. This is it. It doesn't move him. Okay? And the third is he believes that until the day he dies, he wants to be a part of something bigger than himself. I, as his brother, don't want to see him exposed to people trying to drag him backwards, find things, destroy, attack. So as a brother, I don't want that. If he decides to run for office, I'm with him 100%.
I got one thing to say about that. My opinion is it's not going to get any worse than what he's already experienced, which means the ugliness of how they've gone after him and the mistakes and the stuff that he's done. When you're in politics, you're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
You're left, right, center.
And he signed up for all of it.
He did, yeah. But what I'm saying is, think about the pressure of the ugliest moment in the day. I think he's graduated that pain. So whatever he does now for him internally is when you're building a business, you're going to be backstabbed and you're going to make public mistakes that are humiliating and everybody will know. And the more public your persona is, the more humiliating it is, because you can go to a restaurant and you're going to hear 3 people sitting there and they point at you and they laugh and they make that one look and you're like, oh, these mother, and you want to go up and say something. That whole look is different than when it happens in a boardroom. But then you do that for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And then the levels get higher and higher and higher. And then when you're by yourself in your room, in the car, nobody else is around, and you say, okay, Andrew, you're good now? Yeah. All right. This is the 5th and last run. Let's go rip them apart. That's the mindset of the individual when they're in it. Now, I don't know if he's there or not. I'm just saying his argument.
He is a warrior.
Yeah.
He is not a happy warrior. He is just a warrior.
Yeah.
And look, if he decides that's what he wants to do, I know that he's overwhelmed by how many people are asking him to do it. He did not expect that. And I don't even think he needed it, frankly. But he's trying to figure it out. And obviously, I talk to him all the time. But again, as a brother, all right, I totally respect that. I'm protective. And he's all I got. You know, my father is gone. I just lost my godfather, who was my last connection to my father, his last best friend.
When was this?
2 weeks ago.
Sorry to hear.
And thank you. And beautiful guy. And Andrew, you know, he raised my whole family. So Andrew and I, it's like, you know, we're all we got. And on that level, man to man, you know, we're blessed with kids and other, you know, people we love. But watching what happened to him, I'll tell you something, and you guys can gladly beat me over the head with it. So I got fired because I supposedly did dirty shit for my brother to help him deal with what was going on in his life with his allegations. The most painful experience I've ever had in this business was that I actually believe I didn't do what I should have been doing to help him in that situation. So it's an interesting thing. I'm accused of things I didn't do, and I feel the worst about what I didn't do. And I didn't help him. You know, one of the last things my father told me was, and he always said this, he didn't need to say it to Andrew. He needed to say it to me. You don't have to tell Andrew to care about his own. I mean, you know, the guy is alpha all day long. He said, be there for your brother. Your brother's going to need you.
He's saying that to you.
My father said that to me. Be there for your brother. Your brother's going to need you. You guys have each other. There's a blessing in that. Never forget it. And I never will. Then the guy needs me, and I don't get it done. He winds up having to resign over stuff that he didn't do. And
you take responsibility for that?
Yeah, I do. I failed him. And so the idea that you got fired for doing things that you actually didn't do, that you think you probably should have been doing, because who doesn't get to confront their accusers? But so that's a little bit of a weird emotional situation for me. But so that's where I'm coming from. Oh, no, he should run. Yeah, easy for you to say. Oh, he would win. Maybe. But I don't want to see someone I love exposed to a business that I know, because the idea that, well, it's different now. I wish I believed exactly as you do, Patrick. The worst is over. Not in this business. Not in this business. This business is all about building up and tearing down. I've been saying this about Harris. You think that it's going to stay like this? There's zero chance. Why? Won't be selling and clicks the same way. They'll start doing what we do. And it's not conspiratorial. It's not even cynical. We build you up. Look how nice this is. Maybe it's not as nice as you think it is. And you go back down. It's not a coincidence. You see narratives go up and down all the time. Same shit's going to happen with Harris and Walz. You've seen it already with things, but you'll see it more pronounced as we go along. Why would I want someone I love exposed to that? Now, is it my call? No. Does Andrew agree with me? No. Does Andrew see it through the lens that I'm looking at it? No, he dismisses the lens. You sign up for it. You take the punches. I want to serve. I want to be about something bigger than myself. I respect it. I'm with him. Whatever he wants to do, I'm with him. But as a brother, I'm coming from a place of love and protection.
That totally makes sense. Adam, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it super brief and keep it.
I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, by the way.
Well,
I apologize.
This is actually my question. Perfect.
Is your question, why do you talk so much?
Actually, yes, Chris. That's it. Well,
I'm crossing you off.
No, I'm running there. But here's the reality. People come up to me all the time, Cuomo, they're like, oh, what do you think of Cuomo, man? What's up with that guy? And I go, I'm not even going to go political here. I'm just saying, as real and as genuine and as kind of a dude as I've ever met. Real. The first time we ever met, I remember we came to PBD's house. You were wrestling with Dilly Boy and just keeping it, just you're being you, man. And then you don't even know this, but in 2020, Pat and I, when we were starting the podcast, Pat, he's talking about you and your brother. I like these guys, man, because obviously there's a lot of similarity. He's a father, 2 sons, all that. But I'm saying that you are real. Now, the beginning of the segment, we showed you that, I showed the audience that epic rant, Cuomo. You weren't asking questions. You weren't being a journalist at that point. Dude, you went off and it was real and it was authentic and that's going on. But here's my challenge. Here's my question. So you know how on Rogan podcast, he'll say something political, aspirational, whatever, and then he'll use sort of like the defense mechanism. Hey, but I'm just a comedian, man. What do I know? I'm not here for this.
Yeah, and he's right.
Okay. But before we started the podcast, you said, almost like a shield defense mechanism. Look, I just ask questions for a living. I don't know nothing. Why are you following what I'm saying? I just ask questions. Dude, we're asking your questions. There's a journalist and then there's a pundit. You're also a pundit. You have strong convictions and strong feelings. Like, look at this right now. You're not being a journalist. You're keeping it real.
Yeah.
So what you're doing right now, this is sort of your next phase because you have strong feelings. I'm not saying you're running.
I've always been the same way. I would never be involved in elected politics. But look.
Was there a question there?
I'm saying.
What just happened the last 2 minutes?
No,
bro?
the question is.
You tap me like you have a question. What just happened right now?
I'm
bro?
saying.
I'm trying to help you run for office.
No.
And I'm sitting here listening. We just did a freaking full-on campaign to put you on the ballot.
So, thank you. There was a question. He was going to answer it.
Get to the point or I'm going to get warmed up.
You look at Tucker. You think Tucker's a journalist at this point? He has strong feelings.
I don't think he's ever been a journalist.
Okay, bingo. You look at Hannity. You think he's a journalist?
I don't think he's ever been a journalist.
Okay, you look at Megyn Kelly. Boom. You even look at Kaitlan Collins. She has journalists. You're in that same. You have feelings, man. You have stop hiding behind being a journalist.
Listen,
you have opinions. Is my point.
Listen, 2 things can be true at the same time.
I agree.
Okay, I think the labels are less important than the practice. The key is transparency. Okay, and transparency matters more today than it ever has in my 25+ year career. Okay, why? It used to be, I'm not going to tell you how I feel about the Ellsworth Sosnick ticket, but I'm going to be asking these questions and I'll say that this is good. And because I'm not telling you what I think of it, you can believe, but it was almost a kind of a fiction of the unknown, that I'm being fair because you don't know how I feel. Whether that worked or not, it's over. And now the presumption has flipped, which is, I don't know if I can trust you. Tell me what you think so that I can judge whether or not you're being fair. Most of us haven't leaned into that yet. I am leaning into it because I believe, look, I can say, I like Patrick Bet-David, okay? I like him. I like what he's about. I love spending time with him. And he shouldn't have picked you up and thrown you again across the room. He was wrong when he did that. You know I like him. And you know I think that was wrong. That's where we are. So what I'm doing with my work, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, is I'm not there's a fire on 5th and Elm, okay? That's not what I do. I've done it. I've never wanted to be that guy. I don't have to be first. I'm a why guy, okay? I do analysis. Am I a journalist? I've won almost every journalism award they give it out on television. So obviously somebody thinks I am. But but you said that you don't like the 2 parties. Yeah, I know I don't. And I'm just being transparent. Am I fair? Yeah, of course. I cover them like everybody else. So that's where I'm coming from. I don't think the labels matter. It doesn't matter. Are you Megyn Kelly or are you Walter Cronkite? Whatever. Everybody is given opinion, given information, given perspective, and you go where the marketplace wants to go.
Let's transition into this other story, which I think is just perfect right here. You're talking about, with everything that's going on. Am I Team Trump? No. Am I Team Kamala? No. Biden, Trump? Yes. Okay. Now, Bobby's a big part of this, right?
And nobody gave him a bigger platform on cable news than
you had him on all the time. Yeah. And by the way, when he would talk about the fact that when Ross Perot was running, he had 34 different times that he did mainstream media interview. He says, I only got 2 of them. CNN never invited me. He goes through this whole thing that he was just talking about the other day. Michigan denies RFK Jr.'s request to be removed from the ballot. Yeah. Okay. So we know what's happened in the last timeline-wise. July 13, Trump's assassination attempt happens. 15th, he gets Secret Service. Then last week, Trump and RFK come together in Glendale, Arizona. Right before that, RFK does a press conference, whatever you want to call it, and he announces the fact that he's removing himself from the 10 battleground states, whatever it is. He'll be on the other 40, and he's supporting Trump. Then he walks into Glendale, Arizona, everybody flips out, oh my God, what's going on? And then, hey, make America healthy again. Then he goes on news talking about the fact that he may do something with Trump. And then he's asking to be removed. So now, for someone like you, with RFK, when I was watching you interview him, and you had him on many times, you guys would go back and forth and speak. My read was, okay, so you're not going to vote for Trump. And that's you've said, I'm not, because your father, what, by the way, the letter in Trump's book, the second letter is your father, okay, in that book. And I read you the letter, if you remember that. And Kamala, you don't seem like a Kamala guy. I don't see you voting for Kamala. But I saw you voting for Bobby. So now that Bobby is going Team Trump, last week I had Brett Weinstein here, who's a lifelong Democrat. I said, hey, I said, where are you now? I said, what are you going to do? I said, do you feel more comfortable now that Bobby is with Trump, that there's going to be representation on your side to vote for Trump? He says, Patrick, for the first time, I feel that because Bobby is now with Trump, I'm comfortable voting for Trump. Does this move of Bobby going with Trump earn your vote to consider voting for Trump?
No, but I don't tell people who to vote for, okay? I believe that Trump has disqualified himself from the level of leadership I think we should have. You don't have to agree with me. You do what you want. I'm still fair to him, okay? In fact, nobody has more reason to be less fair than I do when it comes to Trump, and I'm still fair to him. I had Lewandowski on last night. I have his people on all the time. But I'm not a Harris person because I don't pick sides, okay? I think that the level of leadership we're being presented with as options is unacceptable. I'm okay. I know you're supposed to vote. You're supposed to vote. I probably won't vote. I was not going to vote for Bobby. I had Bobby on because the two parties should not get to tell you who you get to hear from. And they boxed him out because it's a duopoly. That's why I had him on. Do I think Bobby was a better choice than the other two? No, I don't. Do I think he's qualified to be president? Probably not. That's irrelevant. What is relevant is he should be able to make his case. You should be able to decide that for yourself. Does it change my analysis that he's joined with Trump? Only in terms of what I thought was best for Bobby. I understand why he felt he had to drop out. I understand why Michigan's keeping him on the ballot, which is whoever's making that decision thinks that having him on the ballot helps who they want to win.
That's right.
Okay, that's what my guess is. So if I were if I were advising him and he were listening, which are two very different propositions, I would have not endorsed Trump. Why? Because you hate Trump? No, I don't hate anybody. It's that the longer he would have waited, the more power he would have had. Because this race is going to be like this, Patrick. I don't care what the polls say. This race is going to be like this. It's going to be this close. And they would have been desperate for him come late October. And he would have then been able to ask for a lot more in return. Harris didn't want to talk to him, which was a big reason he went and talked to Trump. She would have talked to him come October. Come October, you can leave no stone unturned. So strategically, I would have liked to have seen that. Also, I don't know where Bobby's confidence is coming from that Trump will deliver on giving him a real position. Two reasons. One, I think that was said the first time Trump ran, that he would put Bobby in and didn't. The second reason is, if it's a real appointment, like an agency level appointment, I don't know that Bobby gets past Congress. Remember, they have advise and consent, right? If it's a real position. Now, you could just make them like, you're the ombudsman of health or whatever, the czar or whatever. You know what I mean? Like where you don't have to be vetted. But if he has to be vetted, I could see that being a real political war. But look, my motivation with Bobby, people are like, oh, you're family. I'm not family. My brother was married to his sister. He was family with my brother, not me. He was never my brother-in-law. I've known Bobby most of my life. I have a lot of respect for a lot of what he's done. Most of all, my opinion, is his recovery. I think that's really, really impressive to me. For people to live a life of recovery is probably the highest bar. But I've never been a supporter of his. I do support his right to exist within the process.
So what you're saying is, Chris, you're saying you're going to sit this election. When's the last time you sat an election out?
No, I sit them out on a regular basis because people follow me around when I'm going to vote and try to find out what's going on. And look, I know that the right answer, see, it's just the bullshit of all of it that bothers me, Patrick. Don't tell people, everybody's got to vote. Everybody doesn't vote, okay? And a lot of people don't vote because you have turned them off on a process that they believe doesn't lead to anything.
I think a lot, you know how the same way about, Tom, I'm going to come to you next. You know how the same way when you say Michigan is leaving them on because they think it's going to help the party.
That's my suspicion.
No, it's a very obvious suspicion, and I would be on the same page. I also think is the same reason why a lot of people like you who know, if Trump appointed, okay, let me ask you a question. If Trump gave a job, which would never happen, watch this crazy question, and look, don't give me a lawyer answer, bro, okay? I just want to see if you can give me an answer. Watch this here. If Trump gave Andrew Cuomo a real job, okay, would you vote for him?
For Trump?
Yeah.
No.
That's the point. So even if your brother got a position, you're still not going to. There's nothing Trump can do to get your vote, okay? Hear me out here, okay? So I believe. You're thinking about it now.
Yeah, exactly. I see the eyes, Cuomo.
I'm just trying to think how angry Andrew's going to be.
Exactly. It's in the eyes, Cuomo. In the eyes. I see the eyes.
But here's the part where I'm going with this is I think the same way that you don't think, the Michigan people are doing what they're doing, I think it's the same way a lot of people like you sitting this one out is going to hurt the left. I think that's what's going to be happening. Tom, what do you think about the Michigan situation?
Two things. One, there aren't a lot of people like me. I'm a media guy. That's how I'm coming at this from. And two, I have never, ever been deferential to the left. If your name is Cuomo, I vote for you. Andrew runs as a Democrat. I register as a Democrat so I can vote for him in the primary. He's in the general. I vote for him in the general. Then I remove my party registration. Why? I'm not a Democrat. I don't agree personally. And again, I don't tell you who to vote for. I don't like a lot of things about that party. It is not my father's party. Okay? I'm married into a Republican family. I have a lot of friends who are Republicans. Some of them are real conservatives. Some of them are Trumpers. Okay? And we have our fights and shit like that, but we love each other and it's bigger than politics. I have never registered as a Republican. Why? I've never had to vote for a Republican before because there was never a Cuomo running as one. That's my loyalty. My loyalty is not to a party. Huh?
To the Democratic Party.
I have no loyalty. Zero.
You've never voted for a Republican.
Oh, yes, I have. The first vote I ever cast.
President.
Yes, I told you this on this show. You don't listen. You don't care. I voted for George Herbert Walker Bush. My first vote, 1988, 18 years of age, running against Dukakis. I voted for Bush. Why? Because I was going to Yale. So was he. I felt Dukakis was like, all due respect to Governor Dukakis. I like him, and I think he's a smart man.
He looked very good in the tank, though. But go ahead. You're saying.
I felt that he was a poor man's Mario. So it kind of burned me that my father didn't have the ambition to do it. So I have voted for Republicans. I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I know it's easy to say that, but all I can do is tell you the truth.
Tom, thoughts? Michigan, RFK.
Stepping back to Michigan and stepping back into the sausage making machine. I have been stunned by the manipulation. Not stunned by the manipulation, but just stunned by the quantity of it during this cycle. I mean, we know Bernie's been screwed twice by the DNC, the South Carolina manipulation last time, and now again, we know that RFK was completely manipulated. You look at the number of lawsuits. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the number of lawsuits that are in the public record now. They're being levied against RFK's campaign by state and regional DNC, offices. It's naked. It's open. It's right out there. And then Nancy Pelosi is going on TV saying, "Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. It was Obama's from the book depository." No, it wasn't Nancy. It was you from the grassy knoll. That's what happened. If you took the shot, you did it. It's always the simplest that makes sense. And now Michigan Secretary of State is putting its thumb on the scale under pressure, knowing very well that there is a lot of angst on the two candidates by the voters who actually want to sit it out, and counting on some percent of turnout being the protest vote, which would be for Bobby, including people that would feel pretty good about Bobby as a protest vote, because I happen to think he had one of the most sensible things, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, and I'd love to be Secretary of HHS and talk about vaccines and other things. You look at Bobby's position, I believe that. I believe he believes that, and I believe he wants to do that. And I think with Michigan, you're seeing just the latest move of what's been incredibly manipulative.
And remember why they're able to do it, by the way. This is the only dynamic we allow in our society that is not a creature of law. Parties are not in the Constitution. They are not creatures of law. The Supreme Court decided in the 70s, I think it was 1976, they are mere tradition. And they completely control our process for their own benefit and no one else's. And that's the reality. That's what's pissing you off. And it should.
It does. And also, John Roberts, who I admire and respect as a tremendous jurist, I will forever, look at what has been. And I don't know how use the phrase unintended consequences, but I don't know how unintended it was that opened the floodgates to these multi-billion-dollar
Citizens United.
Exactly.
Yes.
Citizens
2010,
United.
I believe, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's Roberts.
Conservative group, by the way.
Roberts penned it, and everybody went
Citizens
with it.
United.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They were in power. They wanted their money to flood. They got their decision, but now the flood covers all mankind. And that's where we are.
So, okay, we'll see what's going to happen there. But do you think there's going to be more of those 10 battleground states that are going to follow Michigan's lead to say, you know what, we're also going to leave them on?
I think it's happening right now. I think it's absolutely happening, because when Bobby said they're retaliating against Bobby, because Bobby said, well, we're going to stay on in these and stay off in those. So he kind of articulated a playbook, and they kind of retaliated back and said, no, you won't. Because remember, he said, I'm going to pull myself off in certain states and I'm going to be on certain states.
Why would you even do that? So does it make sense now for Bobby to now react and say, guess what? I'm out. I'm not even suspending. I'm just out all ballots. Does it make sense to now do that or not really?
I don't. Well, they're claiming, well, you're in Michigan. By the way, Jocelyn Benson, I haven't seen her say anything. Maybe she did, but they sent Sherry Hardman, who's the press secretary for the Secretary of State Michigan, out to say, no, the minor party can't withdraw after they have their equivalent of a deadline date with regards to their convention, or the equivalent of
Is that
convention.
a law, Tom, or is that like a preference, choice? They get to do whatever they want to do, but it's not a law.
I don't know whether it's a law or it's a regulation or it's just the position of the Michigan Secretary of State. Minor party candidates cannot withdraw, so your name will remain on the ballot because the date has passed that your group has met, and you put yourself on the ballot with who did he choose? He had an unusual group that he chose in Michigan. Find it here. Oh, the Natural Law Party. So he aligned with the Natural Law Party, which has, position in Michigan to get candidates on ballots. And they're saying natural law is already met. You're on the ballot. You can't change it.
Tom, don't forget, that's impressive that whoever these obscure people are in Michigan, but who's the governor of Michigan? It's Gretchen Whitmer. And she's a Democrat. She spoke at the DNC. And we just talked about Pelosi having more pull than Obama. Well, when you're in government, I don't think it's a shock that when you're you have people that answer to you, probably have more pull.
I don't know that they're
Gretchen's
right.
thumb is pretty big.
Yes.
I don't know that they're
saying.
right. If I were you guys, I'd have Charlie LaDuff on the podcast. You know who he is? Citizen journalist, Pulitzer Prize winner, by the way, when he was at the New York Times. He is Mr. Michigan, Detroit specifically. He's got an amazing depth of read on that state. I don't know that in the hard-bitten areas of Michigan, outside the lake, the rich lake area there, that people who don't want to vote for Trump may see Bobby as the rejection vote of the Democrats as well. It may not work for them the way that my suspicion is. And again, I don't know, but if the suspicion is, let's keep Bobby on because he's going to take away from Trump voters and it will help Harris, I don't know. There may be people who say, I can't vote for Trump, but I can't vote for Harris either because life has been too hard here in Detroit for too long. I'm voting for Bobby. Could go against him.
We'll see what happened there. Let's go to the next story. Megyn Kelly doesn't hold back. I don't know if you guys saw this here on Kaitlan Collins. Did you have a Chris, have you seen this yet?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and play this clip. She's trying to give some feedback to Kaitlan Collins, and she tries her best to be sweet, but just, Rob, play the clip.
It doesn't inspire confidence in me as a woman. I mean, everyone's supposed to be celebrating that she could be our first female president, and she can't even do a sit-down interview on her own. I got news for you, Madam Harris. That's not how the presidency is supposed to work.
This is the wrong clip. This is a different Megyn Kelly.
This is
she's upset about something else.
Although she
she's
was
still
very
upset.
sweet and compassionate.
Yeah.
Call her Madam,
this is Megyn Kelly giving feedback to Kaitlan Collins, and she tries to be gentle about it, but go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry, but she's only a star with leftists. And the fact that she has some roots in Alabama does not make her a fair and balanced reporter. I will submit to the record, her biggest sin is not that she is biased, though she is. It's that she's boring. She's extremely boring with no personality. I have a pro tip for her. Smile. Try smiling every once in a while. Try not to be, in your delivery, such a cold-hearted all the time, because it gives people nothing to bond to. You can be a tough interviewer and also have some warmth.
Tom.
I happen to agree with her. I'm not a fan of Kaitlan Collins. I've watched her. I said, okay, so they got this telegenic person that listens to the producer in her ear, who really hasn't shown me where her rudder really is. And okay, she's from Alabama, whatever. And I think
she used to work with Tucker, right?
Yeah, I think she was engaged to a high-ranking Republican operative or something at some point in time. So maybe she's for sale, and this is where her career has taken her, and she's just rolling, and this is what she's doing. But she doesn't come across as a young Jessica Savage who used to walk the room and search for the story on a journalistic level. She just doesn't appeal to me like that at all. I'm not a fan.
Several things. What matters most to me about it is that, Megyn is playing into what works best in digital media, which is being provocative, being acidic. And I think there's a little bit of irony that she's giving Collins advice that she couldn't follow herself, which is one of the reasons she failed at the network level. But I know Kaitlan Collins. I do not believe that she is a plant for the left. She is in a struggle to succeed on cable television, as we all are. And, look, this is what sells. If Megyn were being the way you were suggesting that she was, sarcastically, nobody would hear the clip. If she gave her real advice that was coming from a good place, nobody would care. You got to be, I call them tactics. The tactics are tactics. You got to be attacking. You got to be negative. You got to be nasty. And I don't mean nasty in some kind of misogynistic way. It's men and women all do the same stuff. Kaitlan got beat up because of this clip where she says you can't call CNN anything but fair.
Right.
You say that about any outlet right now, you're going to get reverb. But
Bill Maher agreed with her, and he said maybe that's the slogan: CNN, anything but fair.
I know, which was funny. Maher is a genius, and I'm a big fan of what he does. Whether I agree or disagree all the time doesn't matter, because he's a thought leader and he makes you think, and that's his job. But look, I'm just saying that Megyn Kelly has made a decision, right? Which is the reason that I can get people following me is because I'm going to say really obnoxious stuff about people and situations that matter. But again, Does anybody believe that that's Megyn Kelly's secret sauce, is that she knows how to be warm and also drop the hammer when she needs to? You know, I just think that she's given advice that she didn't follow.
Well, I think she's learned. Sometimes hey, listen, I wasn't what I am now, so smile. Listen, anytime you give advice, hey, just smile a little bit, be real. I think that's great advice.
I think it was patronizing and condescending, and I'd love to see a clip that has gone viral of Megyn Kelly because she was being compassionate.
I'm with you on this, but about Kaitlan Collins, just real quick. I mean, she catapulted to stardom because why? She interviewed Trump.
Because I got shit canned.
There it is. And then
she got your job.
She got your job. Yeah. There it was. And then this is the face of CNN. It's a young, semi-attractive female.
She is not the face of CNN. Anderson Cooper is the face of CNN.
Yeah, but that's done. I mean, how much longer is
as
Anderson
long as
Cooper?
He wants. Okay. Anderson Cooper could get any job in the media that opens up.
How old is Anderson Cooper? 60?
No, I don't know. He's 50-something.
He has white hair since he's 32, so I don't know what it is. But
Gunmetal Gray, baby. Okay, there's a fan site dedicated to it.
I just struck a chord with you and your friend Anderson Cooper.
57.
Okay? God forbid
it's the Steve Martin effect. You know,
I haven't heard from Anderson since the day I was fired.
But here's the point.
I respect who
he is.
Here's the
point. You don't see Anderson Cooper on Bill Maher. You don't see Anderson Cooper on anything, basically.
He goes on the morning show with his friend Kelly Rippon.
Okay. But why are they parading her around, is my point. Why is that?
Well, look, you're always trying to build the next generation, right? And they did a very ambitious thing at CNN, right? So they have 3 women in a row, which, again, is only remarkable because we don't usually do it. But they are 52% of the population. I love when Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they asked her how many female justices on the Supreme Court would be enough. She said, all of them. We've had all men. Why wouldn't we have all women? And, it's an interesting thing to play with. I don't have a harsh assessment of Collins. It's hard to make it on cable TV. It's hard to make it if you're not a provocateur. She is not a provocateur. Megyn Kelly was much more successful on cable TV because she was a provocateur. Yeah. She then went to network TV and failed abjectly. Why? Because she can't do exactly what she was suggesting to Kaitlan Collins that she do. But look, that's Kelly's currency. Kelly's currency is saying mean things. She's smart. You can be smart and mean. And she's going after Kaitlan Collins. Why? Because she's got us talking about it. That's all she cares about. She doesn't want to give her advice.
Play this clip of her on Stephen Colbert, which got very awkward with the audience's reaction. Go ahead. Rob, audio.
After Vice President Harris, he knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is.
No, I know. The reaction.
Is that supposed to be a laugh line?
It wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is. What I wanted to ask is that you guys still have your own...
Just as objective as he is, though.
You have to realize, what percentage of Colbert's audience do you think is on the left? Probably 70, 80, 90%, yeah. And they're even laughing at CNN. That's what makes it very funny. Look, but go ahead, Chris, defend them real quick because
I'll defend them. I'll defend them.
Here we go.
I believe
this is brought to you by CNN, by the way. Go ahead.
I believe that objectivity. Well, who would have more reason to attack CNN if you look at it, through this normal lens? I don't attack it because I don't share the opinion. It's not about objectivity. Okay, objective is 2 + 2 = 4. Unless you're the actor who doesn't believe in regular math, everything is always 2 + 2 = 4. It will always be 4. It can only be 4. Nothing is really like that in politics or human context. Fairness is the standard. Are you fair? So you can't give me an outlet where you say, well, I have no idea. They never let me know what they're doing on anything. And everybody has been trained now to hate the media. It's always been that way, but now it's more, it's exacerbated, right? The media is, everybody hates it. You're supposed to hate it because it's not fair. I think CNN does a good job. I think that there is an intention there to be fair. Do they get it right all the time? Nobody does. I work at a place that was created as reaction formation to the other outlets. And still, if I watch News Nation, I see she's a righty, he's a righty, she's a lefty, he's a lefty. You'll see it. I just think that the cure is transparency. Don't pretend you're something that you're not. And I'm not surprised they laughed because everybody hates everything these days.
But how do you
come on?
How do you determine fairness in the context of lefty and righty? What's fair?
Going after both of them when they deserve it. Celebrating both of them
you think
when they deserve it.
CNN
Stop it.
is
Chris,
fair
stop.
equally to Republicans and Democrats?
I think that there is a majority body of the people doing the job there who don't have a preference.
Stop it. And by the way, same thing on Fox News.
Let me ask you a question. How many times has CNN had RFK on?
I don't know.
Why not?
Why don't I know?
Yeah.
Because it's not something I pay attention to.
Well, wait a minute. What do you mean? How many times has Bobby been on CNN?
I just told you I don't know.
Has it been more than 10 times?
I don't know. I'll say no.
Yeah. Why though? Why don't they want to talk to the other side? Why don't they want to talk to Bobby?
Oh, okay. I'll go with you on this. I do believe that there was intentionality within the media to play the game and to cater to the two parties. And Bobby was a disruptor. And they don't want the game disrupted because they benefit from it. And they boxed him out as a result. I think that that is a fair criticism. It is exactly why I didn't. It's exactly why I kept having Dean Phillips on during the Fugazi Democratic primary. Because it is wrong to limit people's choices on the basis of a party's preference. It's wrong. But again, it's a relative assessment. So CNN versus who? Fox? MSNBC? Newsmax? I take CNN.
I just don't think any of them are fair. When I think fair, it's down the middle. They're neither. None of them are down the middle.
When you look at ratings,
you know what down the middle gets you? Where
Run
I am,
over?
in an existential struggle to survive. Because if you don't pick a side on cable TV, you will not get traction. Do you think Megyn Kelly is doing this because it's a crisis of conscience? She just has to make her witness this way? No, she does it because it works. Okay? And if it worked as well to be positive and constructive and kind, that's what she'd be.
I actually agree with you, but that's sort of antithetical to what you're saying, is that you can't be fair because you sort of have to pick a side.
No,
which one is it?
You can be fair. If you want to succeed as a media platform, picking a side is easier. It just is.
So which side does CNN pick?
Why don't we
I think that's why it doesn't rate as well as Fox or MSNBC.
Tom, give the final thoughts. And
my final thought is Americans are smart. And when you look at CNN, they were looking at a product and they weren't buying it. And when Zaz goes to the Handling Company conference and he tries to sell the company as a whole, nobody was buying it either. I think you have a great brand, but a crippled product that there may be people below the surface that are there, lots of good people that are neutral and trying to work in news and have a job. I'll give you that because you knew them, you know who they are, you spend time with families and things like that. But the product that's out there, the product that's represented out there, I do not think has any degree of fairness and objectivity.
What cable is better? What cable is better?
I'm talking about CNN and talking about what
cable outlet is better. It's got to be a relative assessment. Every product is.
What if I said the way you presented yourself at the DNC at News Nation was a hell of a lot better?
I think News Nation is a better product. But who else? Right? Because we don't have the scale and reach that they do yet. I think they will. I don't know that I'll be alive for it. But I think News Nation is absolutely, and I don't own it. I don't have any interest in their success beyond my own show, right? It's not like financial. But
I will tell you who, though.
Go ahead.
I will tell you two.
Go ahead.
It's purely independence. Independent podcasters, digital, I think that's who does it better than anybody else today. I don't think it's anything to do with Fox, CNN, MSNBC, any one of them. I think today, if you want to actually see what's going on from regular people who are having discourse and exchange, like somebody can watch here today, right? Think about how many different types of people are watching today. A group of people don't like me that are watching right now. A group of people don't like you. A group of people are going to agree with Tom only. A group of people are going to ask the most logical question, why doesn't Adam ask questions?
Yes.
Okay, he goes 7 minutes and there's going to be a group of people that are following, you know what I'm saying? Just all these categories. But by the way, remember, I'm not running, bro. You're running. But by the way, a group of people are going to say, okay, I like you. A group of people will watch Rogan and they'd say, yeah, you know what? I kind of like that he has this guy and that guy and this guy. I think the independent game. The other day, Theo Vaughn has Trump on. And who the hell would have thought they're going to talk about cocaine? On Theo Von, they're talking about cocaine with the president. And he gets such a great interview. The guy crushed it. Better than any of these mainstream guys would have done. It was a phenomenal interview that you sit there and saw him. And you saw the humane side, and he's like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But a lot of these other guys that you're looking at, well, here's one shocker for you. Here's an old colleague of yours, right? Don Lemon. Don Lemon is going and doing Man on the Streets. By the way, just so Don, it takes a lot of courage to post this. When you do Man on the Streets, you have the ability to manipulate. You have the ability, if you get 90 clips that are all bad against you and 10 clips that are all good for you, you get to choose the 10 good clips and only 2 of the 90 and make it seem like 80% is for what you're standing for. Play this clip, Rob, and see what happens when Don goes on the streets here. And then he has a conversation with Jen Psaki, and Jen ends up having a temper tantrum. We'll play both clips. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob.
I've been talking to a lot of black men. They say they're supporting Donald Trump. Do you believe that? But who are you voting for?
Donald Trump.
Trump. I have to go Trump, man. You said Trump.
Yes. I think they are, and I think the reason why, the money he gave away last time he was in office is what they're looking for again.
What money?
Even if it was illegally or legally, the PPE loans, stimulus, and stuff like that.
That wasn't him.
Who was that? Obama?
That was a Democratic Congress.
Oh, that was
he doesn't give away money.
I didn't know that. I didn't know what. Well, they probably think that's what the case is.
They're actually looking and seeing who's going to benefit me more. Let me not just make a blind vote.
He run with the color people. He run with our type. That's why we like him, because he's more for us.
I think a lot of black men, they want something different. They don't just want to follow the black vote.
Are y'all in the same household?
Yes, sir.
He kind of feel like his vote doesn't count almost. That's the part that's kind of discouraging.
The top people see a difference, but the bottom people don't see a difference too much. It takes a long time for us to see a difference.
Stuff happened with George Floyd. I say he gave us stimulus checks. Even though that was nothing, he didn't have to do that. He still blessed us with stimulus checks.
He didn't do the stimulus checks. He didn't want to do it. That was a Democratic Congress. He only held it up to get his name on the check.
That's not true.
I did not know that. F Trump, man. Yeah, right. I don't like Trump no more. F Trump, Kamala Harris, Kamala for president. Kamala for president.
I feel like they're brainwashed, honestly. He's not for us. He can't denounce white supremacy, setting rappers free, pardoning rappers to try to get their...
Shows both. Good for him for showing both. Now, he goes on Psaki, Rob. Play the clip on Jen Psaki. Play the clip on Psaki.
Was there anything, what did they think about Harris? Did they have anything to say about her?
They did have, listen, it depends on where you are. We went to a number of different battleground states in Pennsylvania, Ohio. We were in Michigan, Indiana, on our way, obviously, Illinois, on our way to Chicago. And it sort of depended on where you were. Pennsylvania, well, I shouldn't say Pennsylvania, I should say Philadelphia, was a bit more liberal, and the answers to the questions about her and him were quite different. But for the most part, in Pittsburgh or in the Jersey Shore and in Atlantic City, in Ohio especially, many people did not know who she was. Right? They weren't familiar with her. So I think she has to reintroduce herself to the public. But for him, I think that they thought that he's better for the economy. And that, again, that he brought money into the community, and that he was on black people's side.
So, thoughts on that, Chris? You've worked with Don before, and now he's going through this, and the stories on both sides. What are your thoughts on this?
Look,
what happened, Tom?
No, it's like his career's come full circle.
Yeah,
he's back to doing Man on the Street.
I'm not a huge fan of Man on the Street because they are inherently skewed samples. I'm not saying I'm against talking to regular people. That's always the best thing to do if you want to understand what's going on. You always get to the most common class of people if you want to understand the biggest impact. But it's a skewed sample. To speak with confidence about knowing what the black vote is going to do because you talk to 25 people or whatever it is, I think is a little naive. But, Don is not a political expert. And at the end of the day, you always have to think about what's the motivation, okay? Megyn Kelly, we talked about. Don Lemon, we're talking about. What are they trying to do? They're trying to build brands. They're trying to find ways to get appearances on TV so he can get more people following him. He wants to build his follower base, and it's hard. How do you do it? He seems to be, although that was a fair representation of something against Harris's interest. He has been very pro-Harris. And that's a choice. That's a choice. He would not have been allowed to make that choice if he was at CNN. He definitely wouldn't be able to make it at News Nation. But he's trying to build a brand, and picking a side makes it easier.
When's the last time you did Man on the Street?
Every time I'm on location covering a breaking event, you'll wind up talking to people in that community. I don't think it is a necessarily insightful way to tell you what's going to happen, let's say, with the black vote in America. Because look, if you just look at his sample, you'd have to believe the black vote's going 80-20 Trump, right? Yeah. And it's certainly going to go at least 80-20 the other way. So what is the value of it? It's provocative. It'll make certain people worried. It'll get wattage. People will watch the clip. Media is a business, and that's.
I will say this, Cuomo. I've done literally thousands and thousands of Man on the Street. That's how I started. Just, hey, what do you think about it? It was money stuff, then it was political stuff. You remember during the last election? Yeah. We were in Dallas. I've done this. I understand the sample size. A lot of times you take what you can get. Hey, would you want to do an interview, please? But sample size aside, it does seem to me that black men are not playing the identity politics game in a way larger proportion than black women regarding Trump. Why do you think that?
Here's what we know.
Men?
Well, first of all, look, times change, and this is a grievance election. My analysis of the election is one line. If it stays a grievance election, it is Trump's to lose. If the narrative about the election can pivot to what's the best chance that things get better, I think Harris has a chance to win, and it's her race to lose. Right now, it's a grievance election. Absolutely, there are black men in this country, especially in urban centers, who have reasons for grievance. Democrats do not win because of the black male vote, simply. They win because of female black voters over the age of 40. That's why they win. You did not see a huge cross sample of them, although I see him looking at one right now. And it was interesting that the one I heard in the clip was actually countering what her husband was saying about why his vote
Which is great.
Away.
That's good.
Look, I'm fine with all of it. I'm fine with all of it. Let the market decide, as we love to say. If people want to watch it, great. Watch it, build up his numbers. But do I believe with Harris in the race now that it is going to move the needle on the black vote? Yes, I do. Why? Because it's not just identity, it's affinity. If she is talking about things that matter more to them in ways that matter to them, and it connects with them, that she gets where they're coming from, as Clinton brilliantly put it, I feel your pain, that's how you get a constituency. I do not believe there's going to be a big swing, and I do think Trump hurt himself with what he did at the NABJ.
At the Black Journalist Conference, when he questioned whether she was Indian or black or whatever that was.
I think that was stupid and cheap.
Why do you think that?
Because it was stupid and cheap. That's why. It played to a fundamental ignorance that we have to be better than here, okay? Everybody knows that you can be of mixed race. Everybody knows this, even from ethnic identity. When people are Irish and Italian, right? They'll talk about that, about how, oh, that's my Irish side. That's why I like this. And, oh, my Italian side. That's why
Oh, my God, Chris.
Look.
Okay, let's play the clip, and then go ahead, Rob. Play the clip. This is what Chris is talking
supporters,
about.
including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. because she was Indian all the way.
You're saying she's not playing identity politics?
No, that's not what I said. I said that she's biracial. She has always been biracial. He does not know her. I don't even know why he pronounces the word black that way. Black. Like, what is it? Is he having a hard time saying it, or is it an affliction? It was stupid and unnecessary. And he got himself in a lot of trouble, and justifiably so.
See, this is the part that I think, folks on your side who...
I don't have a side.
The side is the TDS side, that you just don't like this guy, right? Folks from that side...
So I can't dislike somebody and not have a sickness?
No, but hear me out. For me, let me flip it on you. You know why RFK was attractive to me? And some people at one point are like, on the Trump side, I can't believe you keep talking all these good things about RFK and da-da-da-da-da. What side are you on? I'm like, I'm on the side of the guy that's willing to go and talk to anybody and everybody. That's why I criticize DeSantis. I moved to his state because of him. I'm in Florida because of him. And I criticize him so much that everybody eventually is like, well, DeSantis dropped this campaign because of you. So, you know how many times do you know how many places I go to and they're like, you know what? You're the reason DeSantis. Well, you didn't have to ask him that question. I said, I was asking him the question for him to have some levity and show the fact that he has sense of humor. Just the same way when Fallon asked Trump, is that hair real or not? He played with it, says, listen, here's the only thing. I'll let you play with it, but if the people in Rhode Island, when I'm going to this fundraiser, see my hair's messed up, they have to know it's messed up because Jimmy Fallon messed it up. Boom! He won people over. And DeSantis couldn't do that. So for me,
I agree with that.
The fact that Trump has the brass to go to this event, do you think Kamala would ever go to Turning Point USA?
No.
Do you think Kamala would ever have the brass?
But she should.
But do you think she has the brass to sit across the table from a Charlie Kirk asking those questions?
No.
What are the chances of that
But
happening?
I don't think Charlie Kirk is the equivalent of NABJ, by the way.
Give me the equivalent of NABJ.
I guess you'd go to CPAC.
Okay. Do you think she'll go to CPAC?
Even though it's not a journalist organization.
Do you think she would go to CPAC? Never.
No.
She wouldn't go. To me,
Hell no.
If you're afraid of sitting down with a Turning Point USA or a CPAC or any of that stuff, I don't want you negotiating on behalf of me.
I'm fine with
Putin
that.
with all the other guys.
I'm fine with that. It's not just that he went. It's what did he do when he went there? And by the way, it wasn't even the right answer to the question. Here's what he should have said. You shouldn't be asking me this question about whether or not all she is a diversity hire. You should be asking, you should be asking Joe Biden. Right. Because Biden saddled her with this.
Yep.
He said, I'm picking a woman.
Yep.
And what he should have done,
a woman of color.
Well, then later it became that, right? He said that about Supreme Court justice, which is, again, wrong.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done it that way. At least he was being transparent about it. He should have picked Harris if that's who they wanted to pick, and then said, I'm picking her for this reason, this reason, this reason, and it matters that it's a black woman. It matters to me. That would have been proper and just, and you wouldn't have saddled her with just being race and gender. So that's the answer that Trump should have given. But instead, he pivoted to what he thought would be more helpful to him and hurtful to her, which is otherizing her. And I think it just made him seem really out of touch, because if you don't know that being biracial is a thing, then I don't know who you're catering to. So, yeah, it's good that he showed up. It also showed who he is.
I actually agree with Trump for the most part, and I sort of agree with you, and I'll tell you why. She was a DEI hire, period, full stop. When Joe Biden announced who his running mate is going to be, he said, I'm picking a woman of color. I actually literally think he said a black woman. Where I think Trump messed up.
Rob should look it up.
What did he find that? Yes. But hold on, let me ask this question. But where I think he messed up was getting in the weeds on, is she black? Is she Indian? Is she black? No one cares about that. They care about the fact that she's actually unqualified. That she was anointed the presidential nominee. She wasn't there. And this was also a month ago when he didn't really know how to attack her. I actually think he's doing a good job of calling her Comrade Kamala. And you even talked about how he took some shots at her economic policies, and the borders are a thing. It's undeniable. So the point is, I think you got to get away from the identity politics things, the black, the Indian, nobody cares. She's unqualified. The border's a mess. Her economic policy is a nothing burger. That's where he needs to go. How do you think Trump should attack Kamala Harris?
Look, what I want to see him do will not be the best way for him to win the election, okay? Because what wins the election in our current environment, especially in a grievance election, is here's why she's worse. Here's why you should be afraid of her. Here are her deficiencies. I believe that may help him win the election, but we all lose. If you can get to a place where it is a battle of who's going to be better for you, not because this person is going to destroy democracy or take away gender, but because I actually believe that this tax cut can be done, that they're going to offset it in a way where it doesn't balloon debt, and that's going to be cool for me. It's going to be put money in my pocket. I like these ideas. I want to flip it where, you know what? I don't really like him, but that's going to be better for me. If we can get to that, that would be awesome. But it doesn't work as well, Adam. It just doesn't. When you do ad buys, okay, I've been in the room when you're doing the ad buy. The ratio is at least 5-2 negative to positive proposition ads. Positive proposition is Ellsworth and Sosnick are for you and for your families, and we're going to give this. That's a positive proposition ad. 5-2 is, if you vote for the other side, watch your dog die in its sleep. That's what works. So, do I think Trump should be playing with her race? Hell no. I think it's offensive and unnecessary. What he should be saying is, Biden said that about her. Don't say it's on me to call her DEI hire. He did it. And let me tell you something. She better be saying why she let the border become a sponge for illegal entry. That's, to me, what I would want to hear. But I don't think we're going to get there because it doesn't work as well.
Let me read a couple things here, okay? Kamala Harris is about to give the first interview, right? Her and Waltz. And, you know, her campaign, they're saying, well, you know, the only people that claim that they're worried about, you know, her doing interviews or not, or only press and insiders,
they're
right?
Wrong.
The rest of the people, nobody else gives a shit. However, what's weird about this entire story is what New York Times keeps doing. Joy is not a strategy. All this stuff. And the next thing you know, this other story comes out. New York Times turns on Kamala Harris and slams her as phony. The New York Times criticized Kamala Harris, describing her as weak and phony with Patrick Healy, stating Harris can't coast on Joy, and Rich Lowry accusing her of failing to secure the border or address inflation while showing more concern for the party lines and economic reality for working Americans. Media outlets have shifted from praising Harris to expressing serious concerns. With the Wall Street Journal, Tom, I'm going to come to you here. James Freeman noting she deserves more than her share of the blame for providing the crucial tie-breaking Senate votes for spreading schemes that fueled inflation, and The Hill's Derek Hunter calling her an empty pantsuit, basking in the glow of positive media coverage and unburdened by accountability. Tom, what's going on with New York Times and Kamala?
There's a couple things going on with the New York Times. Below the surface, we know about the family, we know about the ownership, and Harris's position on Israel, and I don't want to dive into this, doesn't help her. But also, there are islands, as they say, there's rocks in the creek. You know, you step on the rocks to cross the creek, and there's rocks in the creek with all of these organizations where you do have moderate reporters. Not a lot of them, and they may be the island in the stream, but they're reaching out and saying, time out. If you're not going to sit down and have what they call an adversarial interview so we can have a real inspection, and we'll put all 12 minutes up to be viewed, then what are we doing here? If you can't articulate your position to me, then what are we doing here? The other part of it is you have to remember, these outlets are in it for profit. They need articles that people read so they can sell ads. There is a economic side to this as well. And whether it's a hit piece or it's we have the first exclusive interview, we have the exclusive comments about, you know, what she's going to do for, you know, the daycare for people. It says it's coming out. But I think the New York Times standing front and center and saying, listen, this is kind of phony. It's been, where are we at 40 days? Is today 40th day? It was 39th yesterday. Today's the 40th day that she hasn't had a legitimate sit-down interview. I think we're up to 40. And she stumbled into a classroom and started talking about teamwork, which looked horrible. She had isolated by one reporter a couple days ago, tried to ask her one thing, and she answered it in terms of Selma and an anniversary of civil rights and Martin Luther King. And it's like, what are you doing? So it's clear why they don't want her out there. But when the New York Times comes out forward like this and they have a reporter doing it, I look look at that and I say, good for the New York Times. You should be calling it out.
Well, let me ask this question, though. And Chris, you're in the space, so maybe, see what position you will take. New York Times is owned by who? Can you pull up who owns New York Times, Rob? Pull up who owns New York Times. The Shah of Iran was very critical of the media of Iran, saying who's the owner of it. Zoom in a little bit. Just type, Rob, just type in who owns New York Times. That's all you got to do. Just
Come
type
on,
in.
Rob.
Who owns New York Times? Okay.
It's the
Boom.
family.
Arthur
Sulzberger.
Sulzberger.
Third generation of Sulzbergers.
Sulzberger is from Israel, right? So you have an organization that they've owned New York Times for a while. So Tom, and Chris, maybe this is a position for you as well. Do you think Kamala, deep down inside, is a person who would be pro-Israel defending themselves, or do you think she's more pro-Palestine? And whatever your answer is to that, do you think that has any impact on New York Times not supporting her?
I don't know the answer. I think that her position on what's happening in the Middle East is probably going to be too nuanced for both sides. I believe it had something to do with not picking Shapiro. I could be wrong. A lot of Democrats tell me I'm wrong. But the idea that she met Shapiro and they didn't get along doesn't make sense. They knew each other. So that doesn't work for me. Why Shapiro wasn't seen as safe a choice as Walz, right? Because that was the word. Walz was a safe choice. Why wasn't Shapiro a safe choice? They need Pennsylvania a lot more than anybody even knows what state Walz is governor of. So Minnesota. But
even Reagan lost Minnesota.
Right. Well, only Minnesota. Walter Mondale. But I think that position is a problem for her with a lot of voters. I think it's a problem within the party because everybody who is what you call pro-Palestinian, which is not I don't define the position that way, but if you do, they're almost exclusively Democrats. So she's got to deal with that. Is that affecting the Times coverage? I don't know. I think it's easy to criticize the Times. I think it's easy to criticize the Harris campaign. Not doing interviews. Of course, I want her to do an interview every 10 minutes. Have they waited too long? Here's the truth. No. And here's why. This is what they're being told. This is the way the political team is seeing it. And I know this as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
The trend is your friend. The numbers are moving the right way. We do nothing to inject risk. That means that they think Harris is going to screw up the interview? No. They mean we don't need to do it right now. Yeah, but Trump does all these things. He's a different animal. He has a different strategy, and he is bulletproof. There is nothing he can say that's going to hurt his base. They will not move away from him. It doesn't matter. Even that ugly stuff that he said the other day with the thing he reposted on Truth with Hillary Clinton and Harris and the ugly Sex Act reference that he made. It won't hurt him. It would kill anybody else.
Harris and Clinton hooked
It was
up?
like Harris.
Is that what you're saying? I didn't know that.
No.
Is that true?
No, that is not true. But anyway, the point is this.
Rob, can you go to Snowsome and search, have Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton hooked up? I didn't know that.
When she does this interview, the mistake that's being made, look, I know Dana Bash is the real deal. And while I'm jealous she got the interview, I cannot criticize who got the interview. But they should have done it live. And they should do it live, and they should just have it out there.
I just saw it. He posted that?
Yeah.
He didn't post that.
He reposted it, or whatever you call
Retruthed.
it.
Retruth, what is it called? How funny how impacted both of their careers differently.
Now, to me, that disqualifies you from being my leader.
That's the thing that disqualified you?
No.
Of all
Listen,
the things Trump did?
There's a huge list of them, but I'm just saying I want the best of us, okay? I guarantee you, if Patrick were running any kind of thing that we were a part of, he doesn't do that. Why? Because he's thinking about how it reflects on the organization.
1,000,000%.
Trump should be the same way. He isn't, and I don't like it. But when she does this interview, it will absolutely not satisfy anybody, okay? And they know that. So doing an interview was never going to be satisfying. What she needs to do, and they should be pushing for, and I think this is fair, do what Trump does. When he has his rallies, have your rallies. Take questions at every rally. Take questions at every rally and make your case. She needs to. There are members of her own party who came up to me at the DNC, elected leaders, ones you know, who were giving me different answers about what she's going to do with Iran, about what she's going to do with SALT, state and local taxes, with some of the big blue states that Trump punished. They were giving different answers, not because they were trying to con me. They don't know the position. So she has to do much more. She has to do better. The "you haven't done an interview" is a little bit of a boogeyman, even though I'm in the media and I'd love for her to do a lot of interviews. Trump hasn't come on News Nation. Harris hasn't come on News Nation. Why? Because, yes, he does a lot more and he goes more places, but he's selective also. He wants him to be patting him on the back.
I think he.
No, it's not about selective.
I don't.
Why hasn't he done News Nation?
Because you and him had a feud.
Not me. He doesn't have to be me.
To who?
You've got Leland Vittert. You've got Dan Abrams. You've got Elizabeth Vargas. You've got a whole host of people.
There's a part of him as well that you're talking about RFK not giving up the job until the last week of October to negotiate that whole thing. You know what this guy wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. Okay, he knows if he comes to News Nation how much sudden overnight limelight and acceleration and growth he's going to give News Nation. He's very aware of that. He's going to use his leverage to get everything from you guys before he comes to you. What are you going to offer to him if he comes to News Nation? It has to be a legit
independent voters.
I think if knowing Trump the way he is, he'll go to anybody. That's
independent voters.
There's got to be more than that. What else are you going to provide him? What terms is it going to be? What's going to happen? That's Trump.
Listen, see, here's the nice thing about me. And again, it doesn't have to be me, okay? I never asked to moderate debates. I wouldn't want me moderating a debate. And I don't like the format for me. I think debates should have no moderators. Anyway, here's what I would do. If it were me, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'll give you the whole hour of the show. We'll talk only about what you want to talk about, okay? And we'll take no breaks. I'll talk to you for a whole hour. The conversation goes wherever you want. I don't need to dictate or direct the conversation. What do you think matters right now? What do you want people to know? Here's what I want them to know. And then I'll start the conversation from there. And we'll go at it. And I'll tell you what, I would guarantee you $100,000 every time I say something that you deem insulting of you.
He doesn't need that $100,000. He's doing fundraisers.
He'll take it. By the way, the guy's not known for shying away from money.
He's doing fundraisers with 13 people, 25 people.
I'm not saying I would pay Trump. I'm saying you need independent voters. They're going to decide the election.
Bro, that's what you call, like my sons use the word reach. That's what you know you're reaching. Because you're trying to say that Trump's not going on all outlets.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm saying he didn't come on News Nation.
For example,
she hasn't come on News Nation.
Us doing an interview with Trump, right? Hasn't happened yet, or what do you call it?
Should.
Okay, hasn't happened yet.
Should.
There's two guys in his camp that they have a problem with an article that was written from our end, and there's a feud between that part. Whether he does or not, and we never do anything. And whether or not some guys blame one guy with Rogan, I still think the Rogan podcast interview between him and Trump's going to happen the 4th week of October to the 1st week of November. I think it's going to be dropping somewhere between the 25th to November 3rd. I think the interview with Rogan and Trump will happen at that time. And I think it'll be a shift. And I think the closer it is to October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd, November 3rd, the better it's going to do and the more influence it's going to have. I think it'll be explosive when he does that. But guess what? For me, I don't care if we ever do anything. Like the thing with DeSantis for me was, I don't care if DeSantis ever came here. Go everywhere else. I don't care if my life is not predicated based on me doing an interview with President Trump or any of this. Would I love to do an interview with Putin? Absolutely. Would I love to do an interview with Ahmadinejad from Iran, seeing what the hell is going on in Iran? Absolutely. Would I love to sit down and talk to Trump? Would I love to sit down and talk to Maduro? Would I love to sit down and talk to all these guys? Yes. but it's not predicated on
That's
that.
a bad group you just put him in.
It's
by
not.
the way.
No, it's not about them. No, for me, it's world leaders.
I know, but there are a lot of other world leaders that you didn't pick.
Who do you want? Justin Trudeau? He would never do anything. The guy doesn't have the brass
But I'm
to
just
sit down
saying,
with
you
anybody.
just picked a bunch of
Would
bad
I love
dudes.
to sit down with Trudeau? Yes. Would I love to sit down with, Jimmy Carter's number one on my list. Most people don't even know this. Carter's. But the point
I
I'm
wish
making
you were
to
able
you,
to do one.
The point with me is, this guy is the face of somebody that's willing to go and sit down with everybody. But let me go back
I agree.
to the
That's
question.
why I don't like he hasn't come to News Nation. But I agree with you. He is way more accessible.
He's in that area. You got to respect the fact.
I am giving
Rob,
it to you.
do me a favor, Rob. Let's go to this next story. And by the way, a part of it for me that I think is a fair question to ask is the following. Okay, is if New York Times and a media gets criticized on who owns them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a topic that's come up a lot more. I come from a place of Iran where the Shah was very critical of the media in the U.S., the fact that it was controlled a lot by Jews, not Israel. He says, I don't even think this is good for Israel, that it's controlled this way. And this is when the Middle East was the most at peace, is when the Shah was there and they were powerful. And there was no wars. There was no 500,000 people that died in the 80s between Iraq and Iran. When Shah was there, there was no wars and bullying going on. They knew he had one of the strongest militaries, and they didn't want to mess with him. However, the only question to be asking is the position of becoming a president going up, is it that powerful that a Kamala has to be seen favorably because of the media's control by so many folks on the Jewish side, on the media side, that if there's any thoughts there, it's going to be that first before politics? That is a fair question that a lot of people are asking, where New York Times maybe doesn't feel comfortable yet that you don't pick Shapiro. Why wouldn't you pick Shapiro? Why wouldn't you go after him? This is going to play a very important role where the New York Times is going to get over it fairly quickly, because they're going to be like, look, as much as we can't stand Kamala Harris and she's not our candidate, we cannot stand Trump. So guess what? We all got to get in line and support Kamala at all costs. That's what's good. This is a case study for me. The 2024 case study for me is to really find out the amount of power the people who own media companies have, that they can cause a person like Kamala to say, wait a minute, I screwed up. You shouldn't have done that. You lose your out. I don't know, but we're going to find out.
I don't know that it works that way. I also think we have to rethink the trope that Jews control the media, because if they control the media, why are they getting their ass kicked on the narrative in this country the way they are? I have never seen deference to a terror organization like what we see in our coverage with Hamas. I have never seen Americans take the side of a terror organization as we see with Hamas. If the Jews are in control of the media, I don't understand why Israel is in such a dogfight for fairness in the reporting. They call it a genocide, what's going on there on a regular basis. By what definition would you ever call it that? So if the Jews control it, there must be a lot of self-hating Jews, because the narrative has not been overweighted in favor of Israel. And what I say to people very often when they're saying, yeah, but look at it. If Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the proxies for Iran had done to us what they did on October 7th, what do you think Gaza would look like today? Land would be cheap, brother, because it would be razed if they did that to us. 9/11, we went into the wrong country and killed hundreds of thousands of people for years. So the idea that we've never seen anybody do what Israel's doing here is demonstrably false. The idea that they're controlling the narrative because they control the media is demonstrably false. What Harris's position on it, you are right to put a question mark next to it. How much it affects the election, I think it loses to immigration and our economy.
Yeah, again, for me, it's purely case study side to see how the reaction is going to be, because when you follow the story, Rob.
But I think it affected the Shapiro thing. Everybody tells me I'm wrong. It had nothing to do with it. I think he was told, you got to back off on that. You got to back off a little bit on that, where you are. And I think that's unacceptable to him. And
do you think she really picked the VP, or do you think somebody else picked the VP? You think she has that kind of power to pick the VP?
Oh yeah.
You think she has that kind of power to pick the VP?
Absolutely. You got to have the good fit. Now I'll tell you what. I think she had more hand in who to pick than Biden did in picking her. I think that picking Harris was a big give to Obama, and Biden needed it because this idea that they're buddies and bros is a very strained reality.
Well, let me read this next story. Rob, pull up the link that I just sent you, which is, by the way, for this is the flip side of the argument. I'm not about to make any friends right now, but I'm going to read this to you. So if you want to pull this up, Rob, pull up the one I just sent you. So this is Iran, right? During this whole thing where it's like, well, let me tell you what they're doing. And this isn't unfair. Iran is upset at America. The reason why they say death upon America is because you don't know how much stuff U.S. has done to Iran. And they are tired of U.S. for what they've done. Really? Yeah. Okay. Say you're right. Say you're right that the reason why Iran hates America and it's mad bad America because of how much Iran has done, how much U.S. has done to Iran. Say you're right. Why is Iran doing this to their own people? Give that argument. Why are they doing this to their own people? Iran executions rises to 834 last year to instill societal fear, reports say. The other story that you have, Rob, if you want to go to the other title, this is BBC. The other one that you have, if you just go to the link on the other one that you have, you had it up a minute ago. The other story is... you just had it, Rob. No, not this one, Rob. Okay, don't worry about it. Just go back to it. There's another story. I sent you both of them. So Iran executions rises sharply to 834 last year to instill societal. Okay, let's go through it. I actually want to read this article, okay? Executions in Iran have surged for a second year running to 834. Most were undocumented hangings. Norway-based Iran Human Rights, IHR, and France's Together Against Death Penalty said. Official sources noted 125 executions. The Iranian authorities were weaponizing the death penalty to instill societal fear. It allows nationwide protests led by women and girls. The protests were sparked by the death of Kurdish Iranian Mahsa Amini in police custody in 2022 and led to violent crackdowns by Iranian authorities. While at least 8 protesters were executed last year, the vast majority of executions were reportedly based on drug-related charges and murder charges. The report in Iranian authorities used the death penalty as a tool of political repression. You can go lower and read the fact that they do public hangings in Iran. What society that is a peaceful society does public hanging? I'm really curious to just ask the average person that's watching this that maybe sometime they sit there. Rob, I sent you the other link for you to pull up as well. What society that's a peaceful society does public hanging? What society? Who does public hanging?
Who does death penalty?
At all? Yeah, why do they do that? What's their motive for doing that? What's their intention for doing that? What's the reason for doing that? So it's very easy when you read this and you go through it and you realize they're actually doing the breakdown of all the numbers. Go all the way to the top, Rob, on what this article shows, all the way to the top. You know, Iran hanged 834 people in 2023. Now, not all of these are hanging, but they're hanging people publicly, like publicly in front of people to put the fear. You've seen that in movies, right? You've seen that in cartoons, Robin Hood. You've seen that in, these are not real situations. That would never happen there. That's not even a story. They would never do such a thing. I lived there almost 11 years, okay? It's a very different environment when you see something like this. Chris and Tom, I'll come to the two of you.
Wait, hold on a second. Why do you think it's happening?
Why do I think what?
What is it, what the regime is doing? What do you think the operative principle is in Iran right now behind this?
Because the law allows it to happen. Because they have convinced the people there that that is normal. Because they know how to use fear to control their people. There's a different kind of fear. This kind of fear is a kind of fear that, you silence, control, get people to no longer want to protest. In America, BLM went out there and did what? Destroyed billions of dollars of businesses, right? Billions of dollars of businesses. How many people got arrested? I don't know how many people got arrested. We have protesters in universities, for Israel, Hamas. What happened? What happened there? Some universities like, Harvard are saying, yeah, well, this is the position we're going to take. And so I'm not giving money to those guys anymore. Okay. And then we are a terrible nation. America's a terrible nation. And all these other guys are very peaceful. Yeah, you can have a very hard time making that case. And by the way, to all these guys that are seen as very peaceful, why don't you grab a camera and go live in Iran for 90 days and go record some of the content and be open about it and go do man on the streets. Go do man on the streets. We should send some people to go and man on the streets on Iran. See what happens there. See how you feel about it.
See how long you're allowed to do it.
That's the point. So to me, the argument of, I'll sit there and have the argument of the amount of influence different organizations have. We can do that. But when somebody starts saying peace, 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 and then you go to the place and you wonder how chaotic it is, then you have to ask the additional question. You know who we had on last week? I had the two-time EU Parliament and two-time Parliament from Poland, Dominik Tarczyński.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
He came on. Do you know, Rob, all his clips combined, what did he get, 15 million views? I don't know what it was. He got, 13 to 15 million views, okay, and still going. Poland is one of the 27 countries in EU. Lowest rape, lowest crime, lowest unemployment, Muslim population 0.1%. They don't do the stuff that UK is doing. Mm-hmm. They're like, nah, we don't do that. And on the border, if you cross the border, they have the right to kill you when you go to Poland. Why do they have such a peaceful society? One has to ask that question. By the way, let me say this to you. Again, I'm not...
And they brought in a ton of Ukrainians, by the way.
They did 2 to 3 million, by the way. A lot of people that they brought in. But you know what's crazy when I say this? People are like, oh my God, you're such and such and such and full. Listen, everybody has in their communities a stereotype. Italians have it, right? Your family was Italian mob. There was some there was some accusations, right? Mario's mob and all that. Okay, great. I am Armenian, Assyrian. On the Armenian side, there is insurance fraud. And when I first started building a company, Tom, you remember this? AIG, who you know how one of their biggest, highest ranking guys, accused me of being Armenian tied to insurance fraud. And they said, well, a lot of Armenians are, okay.
Before he met you, before you were up and running, he was saying that.
He was, and then eventually I ended up speaking out his retirement and we became very good friends. And that's 7 years later. And we had a very good relationship. I won't mention his name. He knows who he is. We all have some of these stereotypes that are tied to us. But one has to ask, if you claim Iran is so peaceful, are you okay with hanging? Are you okay with 834 different executions? And if you're somebody that follows data, why is Poland have the most peaceful place in EU? Why is that? What are they doing right? We have to ask these types of questions, even though it's not popular, okay? Even though it's not exciting, even though it's not, oh my God, I can't believe you took this position. I take this position comfortably. I think one of the mistakes, Chris, that the longer you're creating content, here's what ends up happening to you. And it's not easy to do. You end up being influenced by the mob to want to try to please the mob. If you're in mainstream, you feel obligated to maybe defend the establishment media mob. Again, I'm just saying this. If you're in certain space, you're like, well, I want to make sure those guys like me. And I want to make sure these guys like me. And I want to make sure those guys like me. Oh my God, they said these in the comment. Oh, they're liking what I said. Awesome. And I was like, who are these guys that are liking what I'm saying? Wait a minute. These guys are liking what I'm saying? Those guys are for that. I'm not for that. Why are they liking what I'm saying? Wait a minute. And mate, what is going on with the position here? So you have to, it's a slippery slope of trying to please all the different mobs that's coming, trying to get you to take a position. And unfortunately, eventually you're under arrest because they control you. That's a very, very hard place to be. I'm telling you from my life experience, what it was as a Christian family living in Iran after the revolution and what Iran was like pre-Shah. I had a guy here, Reza Aslan. He used to work for CNN. You would remember Reza Aslan. He did a special one time when he went in the whole man-eating place. I think it was in India that got 50 million views. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. Rob, if you type in, go to YouTube, type in Reza Aslan and solve for views, look how many views. The guy was scared because he met with people that were eating human beings and they were drinking pee. And the guy pees in a cup, offers the pee in a cup and says, drink it. How many views did it get? 32 million views. Matter of fact, just play this clip. Go ahead and play this clip if you can. It's very disturbing. I don't even know if you want to play this clip. So that's Reza Aslan.
Thanks.
These guys, what do you call them?
Cannibals.
Cannibals. Look at that. Look how uncomfortable he is.
Of course he's uncomfortable. The guy just hung jawbones on his head.
Now and then.
You can pause it right here. He pees. He's like, hey, drink this pee. And, he's sitting here. He hates the Shah. Can't stand the Shah. Shah's a bad person. Okay? And we're going back and forth. Friendly debate, Iran. His family was probably more from the Two-Day Party. The Two-Day Party was anti-Shah. They were semi-socialist communists. And Mossadegh, who was probably a Bernie Sanders type of a candidate that a lot of people liked and was a good guy, but Shah came in and boom, Mossadegh's out. Do you know what happens when the Shah was the president of Iran, the king of Iran? So much as people said things about the Shah, how much conflicts was there in Iran? Do you know what I ran the other day? Well, very interesting data I ran the other day. I know I'm going on a rant on this and I'll pause and I'll come back to you guys because I want to hear from you guys more than I want to hear from myself. I ran data to see in the Middle East the amount of people that died in the Middle East, pre-Shah versus post-Shah. Folks, go study the data. Go look at the wars, including Israel-Palestine, because they've had the conflict for a long time. Go see the conflict pre-Shah, post-Shah, while he was there, not pre-Shah like 1800s. From the moment he got in to the moment he got out, look how the Middle East was. It was peaceful. What happened the day MI6, US, UK, France maybe, some of these countries are like, this guy's getting a little bit too powerful, and the 25-year oil contract that they had from 1954 to 79 was coming up. They said, we got to get rid of him. The day they got rid of the Shah, then see how many people died the next decade. Every chaos that happened in the Middle East is because that guy left. That's when a lot of this mess happened. And now we're facing what we're facing. So to me, yeah, I don't know. All this peaceful stuff that they drop around and they say what they said and go talk about the executions. And they'll say, well, look how the people America's killed. Look at all the people we've done. I get that. I'm not sitting here telling you that we have the most brilliant resume. But to me, we are a little bit confused the last couple years here.
Well, look, it's you have to have a relative assessment. And you have to be careful about a single factor explanation for a complex situation, which the Middle East absolutely is. America is fairly criticized. You want to compare it. Where is it better? So sure as hell, this is not Iran. So that's really the way to look at it. America deserves criticism. There should be no complacency. We got lots of problems that we're not working on. Where else would you rather be? Where else has it better? Look, I've been to Poland multiple times recently. It is an amazing demonstration of neighborly love. It's not perfect. But what's happening with Ukraine? I don't want to live in Poland versus America. And I'm telling you, people in Poland most of them would rather live in America. It's the best place.
The comparison, Poland is not to America. It's Poland to, okay, let me show you this. Rob, pull up the clip of what happened in UK. The clip I sent you. Play this video clip. It's Poland against UK. I want you to watch this clip, and you tell me, you just had it a minute ago, Rob, the one with the police is talking to this one guy. I sent it to you earlier. You literally had it up just a minute ago. Yeah, watch this one here. This is UK, okay? This is the guy's recording this. This is Poland versus here. Where would you rather live? Go ahead and play this clip.
So
What do you mean I can't have any alcohol?
Okay, well, I'll tell you. Okay, the time's 20 to 3, 14:40. I'm arresting you on suspicion of improper use of the Electronic Communications Network. And just
what?
127 Communications Act, okay? So you do not have to say anything that may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, subject to later or in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand that?
So I'm actually being arrested?
You're going to be arrested, okay?
Right.
Take you up to the police station.
Right.
Okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, it's a Facebook crime, is it?
Okay.
Right.
So we need to ask you some questions about that.
Right.
Have you got anything in your pockets?
I've got my keys. No, that's about it, I think. Keys.
So,
guys getting arrested for comments he made on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can pause it here.
Crazy.
How many arrests has there been for social media? What's the number, Rob?
Crazy.
Yeah, the number is UK arrests, social media. You can type it in.
Crazy.
I've seen a couple different numbers, but it's a ridiculous number, like a couple thousand people, 2,000 to 3,000. And even one of the guys says, you know, if you say XYZ, you're going to go to jail. If you say XYZ, you're going to go to jail. There's 3,000 arrests. More than 3,300 people have been detained and questioned last year over so-called trolling on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Detained? This is what UK is now turned into?
Yeah.
Data reveals a lot, Chris.
No question. No question. Look, this is what UK has turned into. This is one aspect of how they're trying to adjust to social media culture that is a bad adjustment. They have made several bad adjustments when it comes to free speech in the last 20 years. We have to be careful of not following their example. And I know very well, maybe better than most, how frustrating that can be. But we have to keep the marketplace of ideas. Is there a place for a standard? Yes. What is the standard? I don't know. Can the platforms do better? Yes. I don't like Section 230. Section 230 relieves them of it gives them complete immunity from any litigation based on defamation or things that are put on their content. Now, on one level, it was fair. Why'd they pass it as a law? Because they're not publishers the way you are, the way I am at News Nation. I accept that. But we know that they are brilliant, especially with the advent of AI, about understanding what content is on their platform and how to monetize it and where to place ads. So they definitely can do things. I have been flagged and banned and had videos taken off that I aired on television that they've done it. So they have algorithms that are doing this. It's not doing well. We're moving in the wrong direction. We are tolerating less and less speech on more and more specious grounds. And it worries me. What they're doing there is crazy. If that were ever happening here, it would be inherently un-American. Are we headed that way? Yup. Yes, we are.
That is a scary thought to be thinking about, that we're going in a direction like that. All right, let's wrap it up with a finance topic. Tom, I'm coming to you here. Parents are going into deeper credit card debt to cover back-to-school expenses. A lot of people are going to relate to this. Let me see this here. Okay, here we go. This is a story by Fox Business. Nearly 31% of U.S. adults are going into debt to cover back-to-school expenses, with costs averaging $875 for K through 12 and $1,365 for college students. Ted Rossman from Bankrate highlighted that half of credit card holders already have credit card debt, with the highest percentage in 4.5 years, and noted that 6 in 10 credit card debtors had been in debt for at least a year. Financial pressures have led parents to prioritize essential expenses over trendy items, with Mariana Martinez from Wells Fargo stating the pressure for parents and children to have the latest, most fashionable school gear is brutal, but at what cost? But not at any cost. She emphasizes that teaching children the difference between needs and wants is a more valuable lesson than succumbing to the pressures of buying expensive things. And the next story talks about the fact that more Americans are thinking about postponing retirement. Tom, talk about the parents with credit cards. What do you see with the story here?
What's going on is this is a downstream happening, because upstream we have $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. That's more than we've ever had. And we are at a 14-year high right now of 30-day delinquent, 60-day delinquent, and 90-day delinquent. If you look at those three buckets of people in credit card trouble. And now here comes back to school. And what I read was that 65% of the spending was for legitimate school supplies, not the latest cool sneakers.
Right.
It's like a new backpack and the legitimate supplies for K-12 and college students. And this is a cost to get back into the school year. And parents are putting it on that 1.2 trillion credit card balance. And by the way, 6 in 10 credit card debtors been up for a year. What they're saying is 60% of people with a credit card have not paid it off to zero in over a year. And that is a 7-year high. And this is because this is the inflation effect coming back.
Yeah.
And now what's happening? More parents are postponing retirement. Well, honey, we're not going to sell the house. Let's keep the 2.5% mortgage, keep the place in Parsippany, which is New Jersey, and let's just rent when we go down to Florida. And maybe we only go down every other year. And maybe I work another year because we need a little bit more savings here because of what inflation's done. What it is there is a backdrop that Main Street is in pain. And these stats here are just underlining it for us. We need leadership to take it out of us, and it's not just a rate cut from the Fed that's going to do that.
More than 8 in 10 respondents said that they have thought about postponing their retirement for financial reasons, while another 92% expressed concerns that they will have to work longer than planned. Adam.
Well, I remember last holiday season during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, I did sort of a holiday episode on my show, The Saucecast, and I asked people, what is the most expensive holidays or occasions that Americans spend their money on? And do you know what the most expensive holiday was or occasion was? Take a guess.
Going back
to school. Back to school?
Exactly. And you didn't even think about it because you think Christmas, right? So here are the numbers. Number one was back to college, $1,200. That's number one. When I say holiday occasion. Number two was Christmas and the holiday season, $1,000. Number three was back to school in general, high school, middle school, whatever it was, $860. Those are the top three. And then there's a very steep drop off. Then it comes down to $250 for Mother's Day, Easter, $180, Valentine's Day, $175, Father's Day, $170. Everything else is hovering around $100, $200 down to Halloween where people are spending basically $80, $90, $100. But the top three were back to college, Christmas, holiday season, and back to school. And if you add that all up, that's just the top 10. You're talking $4,000 to $5,000. Now that's the difference of what's the average credit card balance in America today? About $6,000. So there's the numbers right there of why if you spend money on all the holidays combined, and then especially if you want to take care of your kids, because that's number one, obviously, you're going to be living paycheck to paycheck, probably in debt.
If our election should be completely focused on this one story. This, nobody is talking about this, right? Good for you for doing it. This is what the entire election should be about. If Bobby Kennedy had made this is what it is for me. This is what it is. This reality and what I can do about it. I would tell you then I would vote for the guy because it is everything that is stressing us right now. Because look, let me tell you what else we spend our credit card debt on. Utilities, rent augmentation. People are paying for essentials with money they don't have. Families can't put their hands on $1,000 for an emergency. The majority of families can't. Our heads are so skewed by the 1% existence that, even Tom's example, hey, we're not going to sell the house. How many are owning it? How many have that much equity in their homes? And, we're going to rent and we'll go to Florida. Who's going to Florida? Who's traveling?
No, these older people that were putting off retirement do have homes. The average value is like $360.
Right.
So they have a small place in New Jersey. They were looking forward to selling it, buying a small place in Florida. So the rheumatism and the arthritis.
But one of the fastest growing financial instruments is a reverse mortgage. And there's a reason for that. And people don't even understand what they're getting into. I'm telling you that as, you want to be a populist, right, which is a popular term in our politics right now. Who wants to own this space? Who wants to own this issue? Who wants to own being the person to address why we're drowning in credit card debt, why we need it so much. It happens to be the biggest differentiator between American culture and every other culture, by the way. People can't borrow like we can here. And this is the issue. This issue matters more than anything else we're talking about in our election.
By the way, check this out. It's crazy that we're talking about this to the point where if you look at yesterday, an article comes out. I'll read all the different platforms, what they said. Surgeon General's new warning. Parents are stressed out. Parents can't function. They're so stressed. Surgeon General warns. Parenting is hazardous to your health. U.S. Surgeon General Advisory names parent stress as an urgent public epidemic. Surgeon General Advisory. Parents need mental health and support amid youth crisis. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob, by our Surgeon General on what he has to say about having kids. Go ahead.
Are under pressure. As a father of 2 kids, I feel this pressure too. Raising children has always been a rewarding but stressful job. They are the usual difficulties of parenting, dealing with financial concerns, worrying about our kids' health and safety, and getting through the teenage years. But today, families must also contend with new challenges, navigating technology and social media, a youth mental health crisis, an epidemic of loneliness that is hitting young people the hardest, and a hyper-intense culture of comparison that often leaves parents and kids feeling like they are not good enough. Parents report more stress compared to other adults. In fact, 41% of parents say that most days they are so stressed they cannot function. When stress is severe or prolonged, it can impact our mental and physical health, but it doesn't have to be this way. That's why I'm issuing a new Surgeon General's advisory on parents. Parents' well-being is linked to the well-being of kids. It can affect their health, their learning, and their futures. No society can thrive when parents and children are struggling. We need a fundamental shift in how we value and prioritize parents' well-being. And we can all take steps to help. Policymakers can ensure parents get paid time off to be with the sick child, and that families have access to affordable childcare and
you can
reliable
pause this,
health.
Rob. By the way, the way you can minimize the stress parents are having is with inflation, okay? Is with economy, is with the stress of trying to pay and make a living. Tom, you see this here. How do you react to it?
I think there's probably one part of the Surgeon General's staff that think that this is really well intended, but there's some hidden message under there about businesses being bad and they were putting stress on parents and that, which bothers me because you're picking on the very engine that could be helping them if they just got some economic support. I mean, businesses getting economic support so they can get better raises and offer benefits and stuff. So on one hand, the Surgeon General is trying to make a point and bringing something up like we didn't, but it's also like, well, yeah, we didn't know this. I didn't know I was under stress with these 2 kids and what I'm doing with the school and the schools, and my fears of school, my fears of gangs at school and drugs at school. So I didn't know this. I don't need the Surgeon General, in uniform with a touching video to tell me that I'm under stress. I think we have a crisis of neighborliness in this country. People, allow things like elections and other stuff to strip away what used to be a spirit of the neighborhood where everybody kind of reached out and helped each other. And people are increasingly fractured. So I look at this and I quickly get a little cynical about it.
Well, we're better off micro than we are macro. Communities are strong. People take care of each other. Charity is real. Helping is real. Communities take care of problems. If you want to look at macro things, again, this is the population, not parents necessarily. The people with the credit card debt, the people who are thinking of not retiring, that's who we should be talking about. And we're not, because it's easier to do everything else. All the culture wars and stuff, they're all a distraction. Yep. And that's who you should be speaking to. And it should matter to you that they're not, that they're making a choice not to do it. And you want to help parents? Oh, I got a great idea if you want to help parents with kids. Every school, I guess you'd have to do public schools. Every public school should ban phones. Mm-hmm. Every public school should ban phones. K to 12. Now, I know they mostly get them in middle school. I am a long-time parent, okay? We got a 21-year-old, we got an 18-year-old, we got a 14-year-old. If I could go back, okay, and do anything differently, one thing, and I got plenty of problems and failures that I would have a chance to redo, I would have changed our decision about when to allow my kids to have the phone. Not gaming, not, computer, not even just simply social media, the phone. My family, my parents growing up, the boob tube, it fries your brain, nothing compared to this thing. Nothing compared to this thing. And it would be, if I could do one thing in our society to help families, obviously you got financial issues, okay? But people weigh those. The number one thing that is hurting our culture is this.
Yeah. Did you read Anxious Generation? Or
Yes.
No? You read it? One of the things I like that they talk about while we were at Hamptons with the family, every night that we were having dinner or we were going to a restaurant, everybody would grab their phones, put it on the other table. For 3 hours, we're all forced to talk to each other.
Yep.
It was fantastic. The other thing I like that he said in this book here, he says, some of you guys want to give your teenage kids a phone, fine, do so. However, at 8 o'clock at night, everybody has to bring their phones down and put it in a safe and lock it, and they don't get it until 7:30 in the morning. I thought it was just a brilliant, simple concept that parents can do to put it aside.
But you will have a war on your hands
if you started. If you're soft and then you try to raise standards, yes, you will.
Yes.
If you started like that from the beginning, they don't know the difference.
I'll say one thing real quick. You talked about culture wars. I actually think you're fully in the right there because, look, culture in America, whether it's TV, whether it's music, whether it's what kind of car you drive, even your phones, whatever, it's largely emotional. And that's what moves the needles. It's the culture wars. It's the threat to democracy. They're coming after your children. The logical thing is not appealing. If you want to talk about fiscal policy and tax code, that's not a winning message these days. It's boring. Nobody want to get into it. But that is actually what moves the needle. That's where the money is. But it's not exactly a sexy topic. The culture is largely emotional, and that's what moves the needle.
Let's get to this last story. This is the one I kind of wanted to do today, and we left it to the last one. So Wall Street Journal does a story. Rob, what page is it on here? Oh, there it is. That one right there. It says, why so many young men are leaving Democrats for Republicans. Very, very insightful in how big the differentiator is. Where is that story on? What page is that story on, Rob? Is it 6 or is it 5?
5, top of 5.
What do you see? No, I don't see it on top of 5.
Number 2 under Iran. Under Iran.
Oh, okay, there it is. Young voters have supported Democratic candidates for over 20 years. However, recent Wall Street Journal polling shows that Republicans are closer than ever to winning the group, especially among young men, while 2020 exit polls show that young men back President Joe Biden by 15 percentage points. February 2024 WSJ poll found that they favored former President Trump by 14 percentage points. Play this clip from the beginning, Rob. Let's watch the first minute. Go ahead.
In 2008, 58% of young people leaned Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last 2 major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped below 50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group, young men. Young men have increased their support of the Republican Party from 35% to 48%, a 13 percentage point increase in just 7 years. And this is a new trend. While 2020 exit polls show that young men backed Biden by 15 percentage points, a February 2024 Wall Street Journal poll found they favored Trump by 14 percentage points. And this loss of young male voters is a major issue for the Democratic Party going into November. The question now, can Kamala Harris bring some back? Here's what's driving young men to support Republicans and what it could mean for the presidential election to come.
America great again. When we ask young voters, what issue is most important to you when you go to cast a vote? Among young men, it's the economy. Among young women, it's abortion.
17% of men say the economy is the most important issue, followed by democracy and immigration. Whereas for young women, the top issue is abortion, by a lot.
Why is this happening? Well, we put the reasons into 2 different buckets. One is the life experiences that young men and young women are having. Those life experiences are diverging.
Young men without a college degree have seen the greatest decline in labor force participation, Meanwhile, a record 87% of college-educated women are in the workforce. And today, women make up 60% of college graduates.
This division that we're seeing between young men and young women, it goes...
How much of an impact do you think this is going to have in 2024, Tom?
I think it's going to have a very real impact. And what people don't see, you get beyond the emotion of the abortion argument, right? And it's hard to get behind the emotion of it. And you drill down, and there is a visceral my body, my choice that is present. But then when you drill down even further, it's an economic issue, because they say, I don't want, and they use the word burden responsibility. It says, I don't want the burden of responsibility to be a single mom raising the child before I want to. And they talk about how it's going to interrupt my college and interrupt my career. It's a very real part of it. I'm taking nothing away from the emotion and what they talk about, my body, my choice. But when you drill down, they talk about it. Whereas men, the first thing they talk about, am I going to be able to get a job? Am I be able to survive? Am I going to be able to buy stuff? Am I going to be able to do things? And so the economy is number one. But don't mistake that within the abortion argument for women is a very real issue around economics and what they think would be an interruption of what you just saw there, increasing their percent of college degrees and increasing their participation in the white-collar workforce.
Chris?
I see, I'll add a component to each aspect. I don't limit it to abortion. That's one procedure. This has become a rights issue. Women are now the first class in modern history of humans to have a right taken away from them, with Roe v. Wade being overruled and the authority over what women can do being given to state authorities. That is a big deal. We have seen, since Biden dropped out, the week he dropped out, registration to vote among women skyrocketed in a way versus 2020 that we've never seen cycle over cycle. And I think it's about a rights issue, also economic, also emotional, but a rights issue, reproductive rights. For men, economic, of course, but also cultural. Young men have to know more about the breakdown of color and creed in there, but it has not been, and I know this is unpopular, but just hear it out. I'm not saying that addressing male dominance and what is masculinity and how it is applied and where it's good and where it isn't. I think it's all healthy. It's all good to have the conversation, and there's lots of room for change. However, men, so the RNC comes out and there's a banner on MSNBC that says weaponizes masculinity. Now, I believed that the banner from MSNBC was evidence of cynicism and bias. Masculinity is not a bad word, and it has become one. And young men are responding to that, and they are looking for support, and they are looking for validation. And sometimes they're going to find it in unhealthy places and symbols, and sometimes they'll find it in good ones. But that is part of it. Donald Trump and the right plays more to men looking for a space that is okay for them to be men. And you can disagree with that. You can roll your eyes and you can say, no, it's only toxic masculinity and nobody is saying that. I'm telling you, it's part of the equation. I have an 18-year-old son. I have been around his friends a lot and for years. They don't understand a lot of the issues, but they have an affinity play with the right because some of the themes of what they reach for when it comes to being a man seem better supported there. Right, wrong, good, bad. I don't know, but it's in play.
Adam.
Well, this story is speaking right to me because I'm literally going through this process as we speak, and it's pretty much done. But it comes down to three things, in my opinion. Number one, follow the money. As you start to become a man and make money and you start to pay taxes, you realize, oh, wow, this tax thing, actually, especially when you start making real money, yeah, the Republicans kind of sort of have a better grasp on that, especially when it comes to capital gains if you become an investor. So follow the money, as James Carville once said. It's the economy, stupid. We all know that. You know, if you're young and you don't vote liberal, you have no heart. If you're older and you don't vote conservative, you have no brain. That's number one. Number two, you talk about the 4 years that we've seen between Trump and Biden. Well, there it is in front of your face. So, what the Democratic Party has become, unfortunately, is no longer the party of the JFK Democrats or even the Cuomo Democrats, or even the Clintons. It's like, what is this DEI attack on masculinity, the patriarchy, toxic masculinity? And it comes down to literally, as a man, you have to be like, do I agree more with like the Andrew Tates of the world or the Dylan Mulvaney's of the world? Yeah, give me Andrew Tate for 1,000, please. And then number 3, as Trump just said, it's common sense. We saw the lady, the guy do the interview was like, all right, if you had your pick, would you want a democracy or get an abortion? She's like, that's a tough one. I don't know. Democracy, I guess that's important, but I think I'm gonna have to pick abortion. Every guy's like, dude, you're really? That an abortion is more important than a democracy. There's a lot of guys out there that were like, yeah, Obama was cool. I get it. But at this point, we've seen 4 years of Trump. We've seen 4 years of Biden. And the answer is apparent at this point.
The question is going to be, are they going to show up and vote? That's what it's going to come down to. Will they, at the end of the day, show up and vote? And will there be an impact? And if yes, how big of an impact? In what demos? In what markets? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of if. But the fact that the flip is 15 points says a lot.
Yep.
And the fact that the biggest thing that I looked at with this video is the percentage of girls going to college. And they're going to an indoctrination camp, and girls are coming out politically leaning towards one side because they're going to college more than they did before. And that data, that's the one right there, Rob. If you can zoom into that specific data, the next slide that actually shows their increase. No, you had one of them right there.
That chart. Yep.
Look at that right there. From 1970, it was 56%. To now 87%.
Yep.
So that is something that you look at and you say, okay, I understand why. Because for 4 years you're going to go to college, and what do they talk about? Masculinity sucks. Yep. It's toxic. Rich people are bad. Capitalism sucks. America's bad. America's a bad country. Be careful with Christians. And then you come out and you're like, oh, 13 for every one conservative professor, 13 are liberals. Of course, I'm going to be convinced. Yep. That on the academia side, I'm going to be converted.
And then also, the data backs you up with the women. What are they studying in college? They are it's over 75%. It was over 3/4 was liberal arts, and men were still hanging on like at 50% STEM. So there you go. Yeah. What classrooms are you sitting in?
The rise of modern feminism is not what grandma's feminism was, the right to votes. Women are more concerned. Are you a they, them? Are you a she, her, or a he, him? And
until reproductive rights.
Well, I get it. But then a dude is like, I don't even want to play that game. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on right there. And it's getting worse in high schools. Because I remember when we were in Arizona talking to Charlie Kirk, that men are becoming more conservative, young men, high school, and women are becoming more liberal. So the gap is widening. And I don't think it's getting closer.
Anyways, okay. By the way, again, if you got any questions on the stuff that Chris talked about, at the DNC, establishment, any of that stuff, shoot him a Connect. Chris, now you can actually see people on Connect on what percentage of time they respond back. You can actually see 97%, 93%, 82%, 79%. Chris is at 100%. You send him a Connect, he's going to be responding back to you, and as well as all the other guys on the crew here, Rob, if you want to pull up their QR codes. Tom or Adam, you got questions, shoot them a Connect. And last but not least, guys, if you don't like Trump, if you don't like Kamala, if you don't like any of those guys, support the Ellsworth Sosnick campaign. This is real.
Coming to a town near you.
Future looks bright. Go wear that gear if you're convinced the future looks bright. We are on a mission to get 1 million people to sport the gear. Future looks bright, to confuse the hell out of the world. And I love seeing the pictures more and more. I got one too many pictures of people wearing the Valuetainment flip-flops. It was hard for me to show the flip-flop pictures because you guys' toes was there. And there's nothing attractive about showing pictures of toes, but I love the fact that you're wearing those flip-flops. My son is taking mine every time I wear it. So again, go to the QR code and sport some of this gear. God bless everybody. Take care. Bye-bye, bye-bye.